You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices, and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and Ernest Darko Akore from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request required clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised, thereby finalizing the extradition request packages. Subsequently, on December 10, 2025, my office transmitted the complete request to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for onward transmission to the competent authorities in the United States of America. That is, in this case, the Department of Justice of the United States. At this point, it is left to the American authorities, especially the judicial authorities, to make a determination on whether a sufficient basis exists for the two accused persons.
So that's the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Dr. Dominic Akuritigbe Ayeni. He has announced, as you just heard now, that his office has formally submitted a request to the United States authorities for the extradition of the former finance minister, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, and his former chief of staff, Ernest Darko Akore, to face the 78 corruption-related charges. They are part of the people who have been charged by the OSP. Not just that, but other issues. This one is just related to the SML, but there are other matters as well that Kenneth Ofori-Atta is needed to answer questions on. But one point that the Attorney General makes is that now the way forward is left to the United States authorities to decide whether or not the issues tick the box and he's not going to be politically persecuted. There's actually grounds for the reasons why he should be extradited and so on. But there are others who hold different views, that beyond just the Attorney General saying, well, the way forward is left to the U.S. authorities, there are other alternatives that Dr. Ayeni should be considering so as to also have some level of control of when Kenneth Ofori-Atta returns to this country. Because for now, if you're going to depend on just the extradition process as it exists, black and white, then he is right that, a lot of the issues are out of his control. We'll hear the other alternatives that some have proposed, that they would not want to go by the Attorney General's own position, that the way forward on this matter is out of his control. Why did they say this? Stay with us. We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. The next issue this morning, earlier in the week, there was a decision communicated by the Supreme Court on the matter of Matthew Nyendam, who sought the court's audience to, amongst other things, quash the decision by the Tamale High Court on the matter of the elections, parliamentary elections of the Bandai constituency. Well, the Supreme Court has ordered the Electoral Commission to suspend all the arrangements for the rerun of the parliamentary elections in Bandai, which was supposed to be on the 30th of this month. Well, some 10 days away from today. pending the determination of an application challenging the High Court's judgment that ordered the rerun. So, the 5-member panel of the Supreme Court had Justice Gabriel Pamang presiding, said they would rather ensure that the election did not overreach the court in its determination of this application to quash this decision by the Tamale High Court. This is one position that was espoused and, proposed by a number of lawyers prior to that particular day, Monday, when this matter was heard at the Supreme Court. So on what basis did the Electoral Commission go on the path of actually starting the preparation to organize an election when there were pending applications? In fact, the trial judge was not happy that even the Electoral Commission had not even entered its own statement, but was busily preparing to rerun this election. If you recall, when this matter came up last week, there was a reference to a particular decision of the courts regarding whether or not a pending application of an appeal can stop a particular decision or a process from taking place. We would explore the legal angle to what has happened in court this week, taking into consideration the fact that the NDC candidate, as of the time, had not been served. Substituted service has been granted. We'll be finding out whether he's been served now and how the next step will be on this particular issue. In a significant development, Otufo say to the second, Asante presented the Boko mediation report to President John Dramani Mahama this week, asking for unity and also the collective commitment of the people of Boko to ensure development. Well, days after, unfortunately, we had news of some attacks, the torching of some 2 houses in Naregu. Well, there's been some proposals to what the next step or the next phase should be, because the mediation is just, for some, a small part of the big pie, a very important part for that matter. What happens in the next days, months, years is crucial. The government, the president, announced is one very important intervention to boost economic development in Boko. We'll find out if that's potent enough to get the people on board. We'll have a conversation this morning here on Key Point. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. There are many ways you can join us. Let your voice and your thoughts be heard. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com, on the Voice of London Radio in the heart of the City of London, and the Voice of London Television as well. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. My guests trickling and will take their seats shortly. And we'll start off with the poll tracker, as always, after this quick break. Stay with us.
Reporting from the Takoradi Market Circle.
From the heart of the Upper West Regional Capital.
From the heart of the Ashanti Kingdom.
Reporting from Sunyani.
From the Central Business District of Navrongo.
The parliamentarians are on recess.
This is where it all unfolds. The moments that potentially alters the course of our nation and the world. These are the individuals we recognize, the voices we amplify, who appears on screen and who contributes behind the scenes. With professionalism at our core, we bring you news you can trust, impact journalism, that makes a difference. This illustrates how diverse perspectives enhance our strength and reinforces our mission. This is 3 News. Leaders in breaking news, exclusive interviews, facts and analysis on TV, radio, online, and digital. 3 News, first in news.
The Showdown, live at 5 p.m. on TV3. Sponsored by Gold Board, Blue Jeans Energy Drink.
Opponent out. I did for you.
The Showdown, live on Saturday, 20th December at 5 p.m. on TV3. Sponsored by Gold Board.
This is Keep On TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and on DSTV channel 279. We're all across the world on 3news.com, on the Voice of London Radio in the heart of the city of London, and Voice of London Television as well. This morning, welcome to the Poll Tracker. Just for the uninitiated, this is a segment of the show where we deal with publicly verifiable data that you can find, you can follow, and then also understand every step of the way. Matters relating to politics, the economy, agriculture, jobs, any issues that are of concern to you, rooted in verifiable data, is what we deal with here on the Poll Tracker. This morning, earlier in the week, the Ghana Statistical Service put out the Ghana Labor Report. It's a pressure report that gives us an idea of the picture of labor in this country. Those who are employed, underemployed, unemployed as well. And it's a big issue because in every election, one of the big promises that every political party seeking the mandate of the people gives is job creation. Because we have seen over time, government is the biggest employer. Okay? And so whenever there is a change in government, the expectation is come and create jobs. Because that's one of the promises you made, by the way. Create jobs for the young people. Put interventions in place. That's why we've seen some job creation interventions, some of which are unsustainable, not well thought through, right? And we are seeing the evidence of it. The problem is that all these job intervention programs by previous administrations and present is financed with state funds, and they don't end up being sustainable. We can track all the way. We've had interventions under the GIDA, NYEP, then we can talk about NAPCO, Planting for Food and Jobs, is said to have expected to have created a number of thousands of jobs, all of them. NAPCO, 100,000, the NYEP, GIDA, 130,000, that's what we projected. Where are those people who were said to have been employed under these interventions that were financed with state funds? But the expectation is that government has to create jobs. But you know what's interesting? Over 4 years ago, the former finance minister, Kenneth Nanayo Ofori-Atta, at UPSA said the public payroll is full. As in, over 4 years ago, government couldn't employ, if we're looking at the payroll, say is full because over 650,000 people were on that payroll, including ghosts. And it was full over 4 years ago. Let me just recall that. Take a look.
Is the most important thing at this stage. We have gone through a period where most people look for jobs of government, etc. That payroll is full. I can tell you that because we are spending some 60% of our revenue on remunerating some 650,000 people, and that's not sustainable. The question then really is whether UPSA has trained you to be entrepreneurs. And your question will be, where will I get the financing from, etc.
That's Kenneth Ofori-Atta. That's one thing that he said you can't contest with about this particular statement. And this is corroborated by the current finance minister, Dr. Kasiel Atuforsi. When I sat with him, he indicated the matter of the public payroll. In fact, we are spending over 90 billion, or we projected over 90 billion cedis for compensation, that is payment of salaries and wages for public sector workers. That's government employed people or public sector workers for that matter. That is about 47% of our tax revenue. In the midst of all this, this is how the Ghana Labor Market Survey, the pressure report by the Ghana Statistical Service looks like. This is it. 15.43 million. That's the labor force. Those who are employed, underemployed, and they counted laborers and others. So it's not like there's people who are in employment who are actually underemployed. There are those who have a job but are underpaid. They were all counted in all this. There are those who have also been engaged in temporary jobs. Temporary jobs. They are all part of this 15.43 million. So the number looks big, but if you break it down, which we have done, it paints another picture. Between the first and the third quarter of 2025, over 330,000 jobs were created. That's according to the Ghana Statistical Service. And this, they counted all these temporary jobs and people who are underemployed and so on, all of them in this. 72.2% of this big figure you see there, that's 15.3 million labor force, 72.2% are in vulnerable employment. And this 21.5, we're talking about young people between the age of 15 and 24. The NEET you see there is not in employment, education, or training. But almost 22% of young people between the age of 15 and 24 are not in employment, education, training. That's a big one. In fact, the minister in charge of youth development has acknowledged that this is indeed a national security threat. And this particular narrative is not new. We've known youth unemployment to be a national security threat for over the last, 15, 20 years. There's a World Bank report that points to that as far back as some 20 years ago. So we know it. 13%, that's the population that the Ghana Scout Service captured in this particular report, don't have any form of employment. That's over 2 million people. Okay? It's a big issue. And a chunk of them are young people. So if you think about the interventions that have been put in place over time, how has it solved this big problem of unemployment? These interventions funded with the taxpayers' money, or with state funds for that matter. JIDA, NYEP, NAPCO, Planting for Food and Jobs. There's one district, one factory. How many of those factories are actually even functioning as we speak? Because they created some form of employment. But if the number of the factories are not in operation, then those people who are employed, obviously, are at home or having to find other forms of employment. This 13.4 million people who are employed, about 7.4 million of them are female, and just a little over 6 million of them are male. A majority of the female we are talking about are in informal jobs. Informal jobs, they actually even counted head porters, kayaye, all in this 7.4 million. So you can look at the headline figure to look a certain way. But when you drill down, realize that we are not actually capturing sustainable, well-paying, dignifying jobs. The rural distribution we're seeing, 7.47 million of these jobs we're talking about are in the urban areas, and almost 6 million are in rural communities. So this administration is focused on using agriculture as one of the ways of dealing with this unemployment matter. So we've seen those interventions that have come through in Kokon, Kittiya and others. But we've seen other agriculture interventions to create jobs in the past. How much of that has made a difference? That's the question on the minds of many right now. But listen to the Finance Minister, Dr. Kassia Latufo, still on this matter of public sector employment, taking into consideration what Ken Ofori-Atta said over 4 years ago, that the public payroll is full. So if over 4 years ago the public payroll was full, how then still looking to government to create jobs magically, and is either you are adding more to the already full public payroll, or you are sacking people, create some vacancy, put people there, or you are actually employing people who have been employed to do jobs that are being done by other people who are already in employment. So you go into a public sector office and you see 2 people, 3 people employed doing the same thing but with different titles. This is Dr. Kassia Latufo. Take a look.
In 2025, employee compensation was 76 billion thereabout. That is wages and salaries payment. Now, in 2026, it's going to increase to 90 billion. That is salaries, wages, 90 billion.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. So how are you pegging that with measures to measure and improve productivity? Because, I mean, obviously, we can't be. That's about a chunk of our tax revenue.
Yeah, it's massive. I think it's over 45% of
about 47% the last time I checked.
Of tax revenue. But let me put it this way: you certainly need to remunerate government sector workers and even recruit some to a degree. We recently negotiated wages at 9%. You have to make provision to pay.
Yes.
Recently, we issued financial clearance also for about 13,000 health workers, another 13,000 education workers. All put together, you have to make provision to pay. We are currently going through enlistment processes from both Interior and Defense Ministries, the Ghana Armed Forces, Ghana Police Service, Immigration, Fire, all put together. We have estimated 10,000 recruitment.
That's Dr. Kasela Tofosim there. So now, over 90 billion cedis is what has been projected in the 2026 budget to be for compensation, wages, salaries in the public sector. Although the public sector over 4 years ago, Ken Ofori-Atta said the public payroll is full, we're still government has to find ways of employing people. Because not just, Ghanaians' expectation, but their followers as well. You have them, expecting to be employed in the public sector. Because it's a sure way, it's a secured area to get a job. But what about the unsustainable, vulnerable, underpaid population? Well, take a look at this. That figure that you saw, the over 17 million employed people, this is the national's breakdown. 44.5%, that's about 6 million of the people, are involved in services sector jobs. That's providing service. So they even counted these ride-hailing service drivers, taxi drivers, auto drivers, all of them in there. Then we have agriculture, about 5 million. That's 37.2%. And then industry, 2.5 million. Industry. So we got to know, drilling down the data in this industry area, that quite a number of these, companies set up under 1D, 1F, actually not functioning. So you have a number of them who are employed in there also having to go home, because the sustainable, progressive, medium to long-term questions were not fully answered. Whenever government gets into this area of industry, which is a sure way of creating jobs, the sector service is still the largest employer. Agriculture still remains the backbone of the economy. So what should be the thinking going forward? Well, there's a lot more to show you. Let me just acknowledge the presence of Dr. Joshua Zato. He is a senior lecturer, before anything else, at the University of Ghana, Legon. And as I've always said, he still has parliamentary ambitions, which he hasn't denied, at least as of now, to represent the people of Sisala East. Always saying good morning to them on the ticket of the MPP. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Alfred, and good morning to the people of Sisala East. As you just said, there's nothing else. Thank you, Alfred.
Welcome. It's not too far away. Their days are counting. By January 31, you will know who the flag bearer is, and then afterwards, we'll see for parliamentary. So you should be counting your days.
Alfred, good morning.
Welcome. Let me
I like the agenda setting.
Let me acknowledge the presence of Martin Kpebu, is private legal practitioner. He is the leader of the Komipe demonstration, and he's a lover of different forms of hats, as we have seen. There's one that he's wearing today. Council, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Kansi.
What's the name of this one? This is like what Anas has been wearing.
They are all, I haven't taken time to find a specific name, but it falls under the Fedora range. The Fedora range, they have over 20.
Right.
Yes, a lot of them. So sometimes you have to take it, then go on the net, try to see which one specifically fits it. So I haven't had time, but it's within Fedora.
It's within the Fedora classification.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Good stuff. Always thank you so much for coming. As
Yeah.
always. And Solomon also is.
Hey, but you haven't allowed me to
forgive
greet.
me.
Hey, I have to greet the people of Ghana.
Yes. Forgive me.
You remember when Lebede Ahiabod did the 38.1%. That those people. But of course, subsequently it was corrected to 41.something%.
Yes.
That's what the MPP got, right? So from time to time, we have to remind them that when you come into government and perform abysmally, you become tone deaf. You get 38.something%, and then subsequently it goes to 41.something. Anyway, okay. So once again, we want to greet Gamanche Kintaki Teku through the second. Gamanche, we are very grateful for your charges to get the Cecilia Dapa money back. Apparently, the case was not even investigated. It's just like the way Kisi sat on the SML matter. The Cecilia Dapa matter, yes.
So it was not investigated?
Oh, no, not proper. It was just wishy-washy. It was a cover-up.
What do you mean? We'll get into that.
Exactly. It was a cover-up. So we are praying that Raymond Acha will get into the bottom of that matter. How can one woman have so much money under her bed? How much is her income? She said she did cosmetic businesses. All of them checked out false, right? Osi Adeyo, Ajimambedu the second, Domahini, more fire. We'll have to hear from you. You still have to hold this government to accountable. Otherwise, people are going to say you are being partial, right? And then, so for Kufu Yasantua, President Kufuor's relation, who didn't think that the fact that they are relations and she actually benefited, she was made Chief Justice, meant that she should keep quiet when everything was going wrong. So she stood up and spoke against the bad governance.
Right.
So Yasantua Sofe Kufu, we are grateful. Please, let's remind the special prosecutor as is living. Hey, and Togbe Afede. Hey, Togbe Akpe, kaka. Yes, Togbe Akpe. Yes, Togbe Afede. We are grateful. You remember Togbe famously returned the sitting allowance. Togbe knew that where he is privileged, and so once there were so many unemployed people were hungry, there was no need for him to keep the sitting allowance. So that's as a member of the Council of State.
Right.
So he returned the money. Toby, we are forever grateful. And of course, he spoke out against the bad governance, the economic malaise. Thank you very much, Toby. We want to remind the special prosecutor as he's exiting to, of course, he will be exiting, but the 52.5 billion matter that Kofi Afulu, chairman of the FIC now, Financial Intelligence Center, presented to him, the petition concerning the 52.5 billion. The money that under Euphoria test tenor left GCB accounts to some unknown places. 52.5 billion, Mr. Kanse. Sometimes I look at us Ghanaians, I'm like, why? So people don't want to get up and fight this money. We've been talking about it, and it's like, okay, you take the lead, you go alone. How many times? We are over 32 million people. So other people should be willing to get up so that we fight for the recovery of that money. Thank you very much.
I do appreciate. Thank you very much. And also joining us is Abraham Amaleba, is private legal practitioner. He is also the CEO of the National Road Safety Authority. Council, good morning. Welcome.
Morning to you and to the viewers. We are approaching the Yuletide, and there's a need for drivers to be cautious. I've maintained that the biggest gift you can give to your family is to return home safely.
Sure.
As a driver, forget about the number of passengers you have to go around and pick them. But you must save your own life because your family is waiting for you. And so I've indicated that if we drive within the speed limits, we'll arrive home safely. On the motorway, you have to go to 100 kilometers per hour. On highways, you go 90 kilometers per hour. On settlement areas, you go 50 kilometers per hour. And when you are approaching a town and you find hospitals, schools, funerals, gatherings, you go 30 kilometers per hour. When we do this, we'll come back home safely.
Wonderful. Very important message. Thank you from the Director General of the National Road Safety Authority. I'll go to King Solomon Owusu. He is Head of Communications for the UP party. Thank you so much for joining us, King Solomon.
Thank you for having me, Alfred, and good morning to my co-panelists. And let me use this opportunity to also appreciate all those that came to bond with me last week when I was saying the final farewell to my sister. May God richly bless you, particularly TV3. I understand You made a lot of noise, though. I
That-
told you, my brother, don't do it. You did it. So, Alfred and your crew, I'm very grateful. And then, good morning to every Ghanaian.
Thank you so much for joining us. In fact, your good friend and brother, Dr. Joshua Zato.
He was there. He came to more.
He amplified it more.
He brought a lot of diabolic NPP matters there. Even at the funeral, he was doing NPP business. What is this?
I see. Interesting.
He's looking for votes everywhere.
Thank you.
You see this mischief? You see this mischief?
All right, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. But this is the picture that we've been painting all the while. It certainly is one that not looking good. The Ghana Fiscal Service put out when it comes to employment or the labor market picture or the pressure report, as we've seen. 15.4 million labor force. But then when you drill down, you'll see a chunk of this number in vulnerable employment. And 21.5 young people are not in employment, education, or training. And this unemployment rate, even though has reduced from 13.7% in January to 13% now, that's over 2 million people who are employable but have not been employed. And a chunk of this number you see as well are those who are underemployed because they have the skills but are not being paid adequately as well. There's really no motivation to do so. But then, government has the objective of creating jobs because that's the promise they made. Okay? But even though Ken Ofori-Atta said over 4 years ago, as we played, that the public payroll is full, government has to find ways to still create jobs in the public sector. And now we're seeing some interventions to create jobs in agriculture and others. But we've seen some in the past go by. NAPCO and others, JIDA, all of them have not been sustained. So what should be the thinking going forward? That is what we've been painting all the while with all what we have been seeing now. Gentlemen, I'll start off with you. Matic people on this one, quickly.
Okay. Well, you know, it's not an enviable position at all. I mean, to be in government and being saddled with such a huge rate of unemployment. You know, we've said it for decades now. You read the various reports, we've been saying it every time that, hey, unemployment is a national security threat. Yeah, it's been threatening us for over 20 years. I can remember that, I mean, from the late 90s, from about 98, 99 onwards, yes, we've been hearing that refrain. Yeah. That unemployment is a national security threat. Unemployment is a national security threat. And over 25 years on, we still have the same problem. Look, and you see, and that's how politicians have come and gone. Each time, candidate comes, oh, I'm going to turn over this economy. I'm going to expand it in a way that you've never seen before. It will be out of this world. There will be jobs and jobs and jobs and jobs. You remember somebody said, Zato, your man. There will be jobs and jobs and jobs. Then 8 years, boom, not much, okay, has been done by way of creating jobs. So, I mean, when you look at it, you can see that sometimes from where I sit, I know that talk is cheap, but I also have a sense of what it looks like practically, because at least I've grown over the years, right? And seen that, but with the millions of hectares of arable land that we have, why can't we just ramp up agriculture? Look, a few days ago, I heard the National Service, Hussein Alassane, that's one of the deputies, right? I'm not sure of the Alassane, is it Husseini? Yes. Donko, I think it's Donko rather, something like that. Yes, he says the Nkukon Kitinkiti project, yeah, they are going to open a poultry farm that will have 500,000 beds. And so that will be great. Because look, it's no brainer. I mean, we have so much land. We have so much land. And so each time you see government giving excuses about not being able to create enough jobs, I'm like, but we have land. And once you have land, look, go to Israel. You see, from the early 2000s, former Minister for Agri, Courage Kwashiga, he went to Israel to observe, and you know, even before Kufuor came in 2000, in the year 1999 and 2000, they came and told us that, oh, look, Israel is desert land over there, etc. and that they had gone there, they had observed, and so when they came in, they would bring machines and agriculture will boom and there will be jobs. You know, Kufuor's regime, unemployment was still a problem. So what I'm saying is that year in, year out, or every election cycle, you hear politicians promise jobs, and especially agriculture. Agriculture just looks like it's the low-hanging fruit. But somehow, we are not able to produce enough, and even we are food insecure.
True.
The percentage is high. So what I can say is that this time, at least, from what I'm hearing about the Nkukon Kitinkiti project, right, it looks like for poultry, the government looks like they've gotten it right.
What has to be done right this time around? Because we've gone on this path before, you know, under the PFJ.
Yes, planting for food and jobs.
We give people some of these.
Yes.
We give people seedlings. We give people some sort of starting point or capital to be able to get into agric.
Excellent. But it doesn't look. It looks like Nkukon Kitinkiti is a bit different because under the planting for food and jobs, I didn't see the mass or scaling up of poultry production because in actual fact, in Akufo-Addo's regime, in the end, the poultry industry collapsed them all. That's one difference I can see. You can challenge me, you can Google it and see. The poultry industry, the numbers rather went down. There was a decline. So this time, with this current administration rolling out Nkukon Kitinkiti, and I've seen what they've done. There was a launch in Kumasi, right? And now they say in near the University of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, there will be a farm there, and then the 500,000 farm, and other places, other people have geared up, they've lined up, people have been gathered into cooperatives so that they'll be given the fowls, etc. I mean, at least on paper and in terms of optics, this one looks more serious.
Okay.
And we just hope that they will walk the talk. This one looks more serious. I don't seem to remember an organized fashion like this to ramp up poultry production under Akufo-Addo's planting for food and jobs. No.
Okay. Well, so Dr. Zato, I'll bring you in on this, and while at it, I also acknowledge the presence of Justice Abdullahi. He is a private legal practitioner and then also a senior lecturer at the UPSA Law Faculty.
And my neighbor. So now it's a neighborhood thing.
Thank you. Justice Abdullahi, thank you for joining us.
Interestingly, last week, by the time I got home, I had a lot of text messages on neighborhood.
That's all. Thank you. Thank you for making the time to join us this morning. Well, Dr. Sato, you see, Lamatic people focused so much on agriculture as the way to solve this matter of unemployment. But making agriculture attractive to young people is a big discussion. If we start, we will not finish. Because if you look at the population of Ghana in agric, they're actually aging. A chunk of the population in the agriculture sector is between the age of 50 to 70 and beyond. So there's a big problem there. So if you're seeing 5 million people, according to the Ghana Civil Service, based on this data, in agric, the problem is that if nothing is done in the next few years, this is going to go down because you have a lot of people who are there who are aging. Doc.
Thank you very much. Now, with this, I want to start from where Martin ended with the Nkukon Kitinkiti thing he just talked about, and saying that it's looking very promising. Any initiative that is aimed at putting people to work, I like it. But there's a big caution here. Remember SADA? Remember SADA guinea fowls? No, you remember that?
We do.
You remember SADA guinea fowls?
In history.
There's nothing, because at the time SADA guinea fowls was happening, most of these people that are in government now were in government too. They were there. So I want to hope and believe that they've learned some experiences and then they are correcting them. I want to believe that. Because if we joke and this Nkukon Kitinkiti again should fly again into Burkina Faso, I don't know what is going to happen. So please, this government has an experience, an reputation of things flying into Burkina Faso. Maybe this time they will fly to Togo or Benin. I hope they don't fly. But I hope also that is why I didn't hope that there's better expertise now, that people have learned their lessons and will do it better. Okay, that's where I want to start from. But look, every election cycle has defining moments. one of the defining policies of the last election was what? 24-hour economy. Which I sat here and I said that policy was hollow, was bad, that there was nothing in it. People came at me. Up to now, today, I'm saying, what is in the 24-hour economy? Look, and sometimes it's better, and I like the way you were trying to do the let's do it. The leading issue the NPP campaigned on in 2016 to get power was free HSS. 2017 December, free HSS was in full swing. There's nobody that can say that by December 2017, free HSS was not in full swing. Where is the 24-hour economy? How much there's a secretariat there. Honorable Guzitano is supposed to be leading it. We sat here and we looked at it and we said, look, if you look at the 24-hour economy, whatever it has, a lot of it was copied from what Honorable Alan Charamanten was doing with 1D, 1F and trying to use tax incentives and others. I sat here and I said, look, the issue is demand. The woman that is selling food in Chop Better in Tumu is not going to open because there's a 24-hour economy. No, she's going to open and close because there is demand. Where is the 24-hour economy that was supposed to give people 3 jobs, 1 job, 3 schedules? So that if the Ghana Commercial Bank in Tumu was to open for 3 times, then people get jobs. That was the biggest antidote to unemployment that the NDC sold us. 2, they sold us the Women Development Bank. As another game changer, because see, women can be the engine of growth. One of the issues because of cultural, social, and other things, women are restricted in their access to capital. So men have relatively more access to capital to invest than women do. This was what the women development was supposed to cure. It was supposed to be one of the things that would come in and say, look, you know what? Let's make it relatively easier for that young woman, for that mother, for that sister, for that daughter to be able to get access to capital to invest and expand. Where is the 24-hour economy?
No, I said the bank.
Where's the bank? Martin, you see, there's something happening. Priorities, when the government has a priority, they make sure they find a way to fund it. How much money was given for the Women Development Bank?
It's over 400 million.
Martin, you know that I tried not to interrupt you because I didn't want that. I'm trying to let me. I'm saying that.
But he's talking about
I'm saying that.
If I get the line of argument, it is the establishment and operationalization of the bank.
You were going to establish the bank. It's taking you, how many years does it take you?
The projection in the budget is there.
Yes, Dr. Zato, please. The disclosure makes you look like there's nothing.
There's nothing. Where's the bank? Oh, where's the bank? No. I want to go down that rat hole with you. Where's the bank?
The bank is in the budget, but the budget has just
been is that where we find banks? No. Banks are not living in budgets.
You see?
No. Banks are not living in budgets. Come on. What are you trying to say? No, banks now live in budgets. Where is the... So if I am a Ghanaian woman now and I want to access the 24-hour economy, I should go to the bank? I should go to the budget?
The budget has just been approved.
But this is not the first budget. This is not... There was a budget.
But the first budget had over about $50 million.
The first allocation was $50 million.
So what has happened? You see, I like the way you are trying to be a very good apologist of this government. You have done that. You have been a very good apologist of this government, and that is okay. Let's understand, because I'm saying that the 24-hour economy is still a mirage. It's not there. I can see it. If the bank is there, show me after this, I will drive there. So these were supposed to be the 2 pillars of development. So far, we are seeing above the 24-hour economy and the women development. It's a scam. It's a mirage. None of them exist. And precisely because of that, these issues are exacerbating. That is the point I'm making. Look, let's go back to Agric.
But, from the...
Stay with me. So you begin to see that these issues, because they have not been solved, because there's nothing tangible, concrete that you can point to as them, they have contributed to this. You talk about Agric. Look, I'm not an expert in Agric, but I'm going to focus on Sisala East because we produce the base mix in there. Something happens with Agric. And if you go to Sisala East now, the youth are in Agric. They started with the planting for food things. And I can tell you, the former minister of Agric, Akoto, once made a statement that because of planting for food and this thing, a lot of people are no more living in thatch houses and this thing. It was considered offensive because, but the reality is that it's true. If you go to Sisala land and go to almost every place, if you see the number of development except in terms of prison, it's amazing because of people made money from this. A quantity of the fertilizer was smuggled. That is a national security issue. It's not an issue for the farmers and the youth to deal with. National security could deal with that. So it contributed. Planting for food put money in people's pocket. Planting for food fed people. Planting for food sent people to universities. Did that. it has been good. Now, something happened. I made this argument here the last time. Last year, if you sold a bag of maize, you could get up to 600 or 700 there. Last year, if you sold a bag of soya beans, the same thing. The prices were high. You could sell a bag of maize and at least buy one fertilizer, if not two, depending upon whether you are buying sulfate or this. Today, the prices of maize has fallen drastically. Farmers are struggling, and even the worst thing is that there is no even demand for them. Farmers are struggling to sell their maize. So a lot of young people, if you go to Tumu now, I can tell you, every teacher you see has a farm. Every nurse has a farm. Every government worker has a farm because they use it to supplement their income. A good number of them have taken, teachers have taken their PVs to go and take loans to buy fertilizer. Nurses, teachers have done. Now they are looking at debt. Because what they have harvested...
Respectfully, is it negative that more people are entering farming?
It's very good, it's very good. But I'm telling you that because the prices have crashed and collapsed, now they cannot pay the debts they've gotten into. They cannot pay for the fertilizers and things they've gotten into. And that's the problem. Because another thing has happened, labor shortage this time. Now, I want to take... During this year time, you usually have a lot of people coming from Upper East into Sisala area. Some coming from Burkina, the Moshis, to come and work on the farms. The labor is dried. I have 10 acres of maize sitting in Tumu now. I don't have anybody to harvest it. So every day I'm praying that fire doesn't come to destroy them.
Is it your case?
Let him finish.
My case is that right now...
The drying of the labor...
No,
it's connected. You can talk about the drying. The demand for the maize has been so low.
Right.
Prices have collapsed. So that could be good for food. But the problem is good for food that prices have collapsed. But here's the problem then. The farmers cannot sell to repay their debts and then to invest next year. You see the conundrum there. It's a conundrum. So on the one hand, people should, and on the one hand, kenke prices should be low, but they have still stayed where they are. The sizes should be bigger, but they still stayed where they are. But that's good. The same thing is happening. So when you look at it like that, then you then see that it is becoming a disincentive for young people who have a lot of debts who want to sell it. Government announced a farm gate price of almost 400 cedis for back money. And the same minister said when they released the money in Agri, 3 days it finished in Accra. They said no, they actually said the Ghana government company. That money is woefully inadequate. One of the biggest issues even in Sisala right now, a lot of people have warehouses that are full with maize. They can't sell them before they bring in the new one. So there's a huge glut. Government came out with policies to say that schools, prisons, others should buy from them.
Yes.
But it is still inadequate. So my point is that if you want to make this agri more effective, there's so many ways. Government should start, fertilizer. Government should look at it, how to either subsidize fertilizer or even if possible under the Feed Ghana program, make it free. Government should look at seeds, how to make seeds and other things available, planting, food. So my point is that right now, the demand or the city for young people to go into fertilizer, into farming has been there. The problem they are facing this year is
still resist the attempt not to interact.
But you see, gentlemen, so here's what I want to do.
All the solutions you provided, right?
So that's
in the end,
I'm going to come to you.
They produce more in the market.
Because I want to move to the others. I want you to listen to me.
No, the government can then use...
Hold on.
Hold on. Maybe he wants to contribute.
No, I'm only helping...
Wait. I want him to conclude on the point because I'm going to come to you. When you are speaking, you would raise your issue. If it has to be responded to, you go ahead. So please conclude on the point.
So getting people into agri will demand a lot of things. At least the farm gate price is a very good thing to motivate them. Getting inputs, agri inputs, fertilizer, seedlings, and others will be a very, very good thing to do that. Government should see how you can do that. Because the demand for people to go into is already the youth to go there, especially the youth where I come from. The question then becomes the glut. Right now, there's egg glut. There's an egg glut in the camp. There's a lot of glut. So we should then look at processing.
It creates the impression that the government is rather doing very well.
So that's what I'm going to come to you. Because you see, you're introducing a different trajectory to the conversation.
Look, you can look at it. If you're a farmer, and you cannot sell your eggs, are you happy about it?
Obviously not.
You cannot invest next year. Right. If you are a farmer and you have maize and there's a glut, you cannot invest. So I'm saying that that's why I say we can look at two prices.
Conclude on the point.
Lower prices for consumers should be a good thing. Okay. That's one aspect. But if you are a farmer and you are a businessman and you have gone into debt, you've taken loans to farm, you also want to recoup, make profit before you go. If not, then next year you have nothing to invest. If you have nothing to invest, then you see that there's a disincentive to go back to the farm.
Thank you. So you see, I was showing you it's part of the data, which, you know, it was just to aid the point, but you had indicated that you were going to, you still wanted to move on. You see, this picture of what's happening in the agricultural sector paints a certain projection of how things are going to be. 5 million people. You mentioned the glut of rice, maize, eggs. It is not because there is no demand. So that's where the challenge is. In fact, there's been interventions to have them reduce. Pricing is a big issue. If there's glut, one of the ways of consuming or encouraging consumption of that excess production of a particular item is the price mechanism. Reduce, get people to. That's another avenue. It's a very big issue that you were seeing playing out now. So there's been some interventions to have the prices reduced so people can consume more. There's something like you wanted to make an intervention quickly on what the situation is now with the agri sector, because now if farmers are producing more at less cost, then that also is a positive development, you say, quickly.
Well,
quickly, then I'll go to...
For me, I am quite excited about everything Doc and Martin says, because from the narrative, it appears to me that the government is doing excessively well. Because if you have more food in the market, obviously, that is what every nation wants. Every nation would want to have enough food for its people, and indeed for anyone else who is within their jurisdiction. So if government is already achieving that purpose, and we have stability in prices, indeed, stability across everything. I mean, in our economy, this is the first time in 1 year that nothing is skyrocketing. Everything appears to be as it used to be when the government assumed office. In fact, others are rather going down, particularly with respect to petroleum prices. I mean, I will not pretend to be an economist, but I live in an economy where I can feel, I know how much I buy things, how much I used to buy the same item, and I know how much I used to suffer to gain the very things that I mean, relatively stable now. So this one, I do not need a political party or government to tell me how I should feel. I remember this has been my position right from, even in the previous government. I remember when President Mahama used to criticize the government. My comment had always been one, that I do not need President Mahama to tell me how bad the economy is, because I'm living in the economy. I'm feeling it. The same principle applies today. I do not need anybody in an opposition government to tell me how this economy is faring, because I am living in this economy. I know how relatively easier it is for me to go about my ordinary activities. And it affirms this price of the agri products. Egg, I used to buy egg. I mean, and good for me, I go to market myself most of the times, even though I have a better half who would want to do that. But I go to the market myself. So I know the price of items, not from what the economists tell me, not from what I read in the newspapers, from what I buy personally. I used to buy egg for about 70 cedis a year ago. Today I'm buying egg for 60 cedis. I thank God for that. I used to buy prices of ordinary items, bread, food, and everything that I can think of. The prices have either remained stable, or gone down, relatively gone down. Now, if you put all those together, and you tell me that because we have excessive produce in the market, then something is wrong.
But he looked at this from the perspective of the farmer.
No, I'm coming there. Because Doc also makes some solutions, which are all fundamental solutions to our problems in this country anyway. In fact, if you ask the BEC's candidate to tell you the problems of agri, he can literally list everything. And these are not unknown to all of us, because we have all been to school and we know the problems of our economy and indeed the problems of our agri. But when you offer the same solutions, that appears not to be working for us, because the solutions that you offer appears to be the solutions that will give us more food, but without tackling how the excessive food should be utilized.
No, but I said we should go into production. We should use, for instance, maize. We produce maize and we just eat it. Can we turn maize into something? In Brazil, they are turning maize into fuel. Can we go? So my point is that yes,
No, that's the value addition.
Value addition.
Okay,
but before you add, good. So before you add value addition,
have to industrialize some of them.
But you have to do it. There's another aspect. Again, I want to.
But this is what I was driving at, right? Mischievously, I wanted to say this: if you have a company set up by the state to buy the excessive food, and the leaders of those companies allegedly use those monies for their private gains in the excess of millions of Ghana cedis, how do you expect this economy to survive?
And let me just chip in one for you.
So what do you do that? Wait. You prosecute them, and then you solve the problem.
Okay.
Look, you do that. You arrest those people.
No,
you prosecute them. But then you still have to.
I will accept Martin's intervention, and then I'll reject yours.
Akoto said that it is not government's duty to find market for these farmers that today you are making noise about. Google it.
No, it doesn't matter.
You were quiet. You see the double side. You were quiet. What did you say?
I'm not Akoto. I am the Buntias Ato, and I am telling you that government has a responsibility to the farmers and the consumers. Did you see me here on TV3 when
Why don't you go on Facebook?
Martin, I like the fact that you say not everybody tries to do your microphone, and I'm happy. I like the fact that you are steadfastly defending this government. Remember when I said you were saying you are
your mic is off.
You are living up
your mic is off. Doc, okay, I gave you 2 seconds. Now you made it 2 minutes. I'll never give you any. So my point is this: we need to look at things from all angles. If you have been entrusted with the responsibility to support all of us, and you rather use that for your private gain, you and your family members, throwing parties in mid-air and all of that, obviously there is a challenge. You can no longer blame government for your private misconduct if it is correct. I mean, if it is proven to be true that indeed, I mean, these things happen. Right. Point is this: we all have responsibility to make this work. We all have responsibilities, and those responsibilities would include you also eating Ghanaian-made food, and stop eating paddy rice from Taiwan and China and all those other countries. You, Dr. Zato, I know you like foreign-made rice. I know you like foreign-made rice. It is obvious. It is
I'm not going to eat anywhere to eat with you. You've never seen me eat.
So we
must food I eat at home is from my farm. The maize
if you do not do this,
I do that.
If you do not do this, if you not eat Ghana,
we need value addition.
Imagine about 30 million people, all of us insisting on eating what is produced here in this country. This entire conversation about government intervening and certain farm gate prices and all of that, it will be a thing of the past because most of our foods are imported.
Well, let me bring in this particular picture. It tells you when it comes to the age bracket of this unemployment that we're talking about. This is it. The urban unemployment looks troubling as against the first part of the 15 to 35 years. Malaba, so there was that promise to create jobs. You made that promise when you were asking for the mandate of the people. We've seen the announcement of some interventions over time. It is reduced. There's been a reduction from 13.7 to 13% in terms of the headline unemployment rate. But then the picture still doesn't look good, because then if you have the number of people who are in vulnerable employment taken into consideration, it's a big concern. Okay, what should be the forward-looking intervention going forward? A lot has been said about agriculture. Is that a place to look at?
So
as we round up on this segment,
you say it has been reduced from 13.7 to 13.
That's from January. Yes.
13.7 to 13. Flat.
Yeah. So can you imagine if we were reducing it by 7 under Akufo-Addo up to now? Can you imagine? This is just a 9-month-old government that has been able to reduce it. If we were reducing it like that, do you know where we would be? We would have been 6. And we would have been at par with Canada, whose rate is also at 6. But you see, we must be serious on this program. The man who said that guinea fowls flew to Burkina Faso said it was a joke. The man himself said it was a joke. And you have intellectuals sitting on programs propagating the same thing. So, I think that when people tune into their TV, they want to hear solutions. Because the unemployment situation is a significant and persistent, issue worldwide. And so we have hundreds and millions of people seeking jobs. But what is the problem, or what causes the unemployment situation. A number of things. So when you know what causes it, then you know how to provide solutions to it. You get my point? So, do you know that technological advancement also affects employment? True. Because now, machines, robots are doing the work. Then also, globalization also creates unemployment because jobs go to where there is cheap labor.
True.
Jobs go to where there is cheap labor. So, and I can mention them, economic fluctuations, I can mention them. But the solution is what has been proffered here. Part of it is what has been proffered here by Martin in terms of looking at agriculture. But skills training and job placement, vocational skills, is another area that we should be looking at as a nation to ensure that people acquire their own skills and begin to do things for themselves. We are here importing Togolese to come and do POP. True or false?
True. It's true.
So, what is special about the Togolese that we cannot also produce such people?
I mean, to train,
Yeah,
people
I'm talking about
to
skills
do
training,
this.
yes. Skill training.
That's technical vocational education.
Yes, it's part of it, whether to forget about my nomenclature. But you know what I'm talking about. That's the example I gave you, bringing people from Togo.
Okay.
Now, SMEs are an area that we can also focus on to absorb the unemployed youth. If you resource them and if you provide capital, they too can absorb the teeming unemployed youth. So I am happy that the statistics are showing some reduction, even though insignificant, but as we go on, and as this country continues this way, we'll make progress.
Okay.
You have Zato, whose government led us into a ditch. In fact, do you know that there was a time in this country, and I have seen coup d'etats. I've seen them from Achampong, Akufu, downwards. One, I was born, but I wasn't old enough to know. The one that toppled the Buzia. Look, it came to a point in this country that people insulting the military for not staging a coup d'etat because the economy was in tatters. And you have a member of that party coming to say that what is ongoing is wrong or it's not yielding dividends. There's a reduction. Look, does he know that DVLA is doing 24 hours? Does he know the ports are doing 24 hours? Does he know the customs are doing 24 hours? It's a rollout. And as a rollout, other institutions will come on board. The 24-hour is targeting three things: jobs, export, and the third one is, I think, production. So, don't just look at it from the way you are looking at it comparing to the free HSS. It's not that way. Every program has got its characteristics.
Okay.
Now,
he didn't interrupt you.
Now,
anyway. Please
learn from me. Learn from me.
Round up.
To be quiet. To be quiet. To be quiet.
Justice Abdullah,
to quiet.
Now,
wanted to make an intervention.
There's nothing to left for you.
Now,
Hold on.
My last point.
No.
My last point.
He said that he was talking about
Yes,
My last point. My last point. My last point. You know the Women's World Bank. Some amount was given in 2025 budget. It was not enough to capitalize the bank because capitalization is 400 million. Now in this budget, more has been added. So we are now set. And now it is almost close to 500 million above the Bank of Ghana threshold. So this is the time for it to not take off. You look at all these things, and you are all over the place.
But you see,
in 6s and 7s.
Okay, he is not wrong to ask
The 6s
where
and
is the
7s.
bank. No, you see, the question he was asking is, where is the bank? I think that's where you are bringing in an answer. So he is not wrong
Where
to
is
ask
the
that
bank?
question.
You see,
that's where,
in the manifesto,
gentlemen,
did you say you were starting the
thank you.
second
You
Did you
asked
also
the
say we're
question.
starting the first year?
Thank you very much.
You're still going to implement your
Okay.
programs and then when you start,
So-
you started
No, no,
it.
no,
You started
why-
it.
why do you
I'm
have
happy that the viewers are watching. The
I
woman
wanted to
who
re-echo
voted because
the
of
point
that is
that
scam
you
out
made.
of this.
The point
woman
that
who
you
voted
made.
for the scam out of this.
Where's the scam? Where's the
Thank you.
scam?
The bank is not there.
Thank you very much.
Where's the scam?
The
Mr.
bank
Owusu,
doesn't exist. That's
Mr.
a
Owusu,
scam.
now the point that you made,
So that you
it
all
was just a
have your
question
time,
that
so
was
that
asked.
we also have our
Mr.
time
Owusu,
and then- Yes.
just a final one on this.
Yes.
You see, this is how the national picture looks like when it comes to the unemployment rate. And as expected, Greater Accra region has the highest chunk of it, 19.6% of the over 2 million that we're talking about. And it follows like that. This is it.
Alfred, I mean, we are discussing a very serious matter that goes to the core of our being. We have a teeming number of our youths who are unemployed, who took part in the elections of 2024 with the expectation that with the new administration, they will have jobs to do. I have said time with that number that Ghanaians must pardon the New Patriotic Party and this administration. We must take them off our minds, because if we are going to listen to them, we may not make progress. And that is why now my attitude is that anytime Zato refers to the New Patriotic Administration or Nana Akufo-Addo Bawumia's administration, I just decide to close my mind. Other than that, how on earth would anybody invest 2.2 billion into NAPCO and leave the Trade and Industry Ministry? When at the same time, I was very happy he referenced the 1D, 1F that the government of Nana Akufo-Addo introduced or brought 1D, 1F. When, as a matter of fact, whereas so much attention, so much revenue was allocated to a shambolic, a thievery scheme like NAPCO, they decided to invest only 400 million or less into 1D, 1F. That was to create more jobs. Alfred, if we are not going to treat Ghana, the Ghanaian economy, as an enterprise economy, we must forget it. This business of concentrating on government providing jobs does not and has never helped any economy. You just gave the statistics. When I was coming, I was listening to you, that we spend close to 47% of our tax revenue on what? Payment of compensation. How do you then survive? Beyond that, you are spending close to 60% or less on payment of interest. So at the end of the day, you are left with nothing to invest in capital expenditure. And that is why you must shift the focus from the government to the private sector. And if you want to do so, what must you do as a country? You go back and stabilize the various indicators. You deal with inflation. Inflation skyrocketed us to up to 54%. Remember, during the Eswal administration, you deal with your policy or policy rate. You get it to the single digit. You make sure that your exchange rate is stabilized. These are the things that expand an economy, causes an enterprise economy to function properly. Because with that, you can then begin to engage in more infrastructure development. And I've been listening to my brother Zato continue to make the point that prices of maize have fallen. Why wouldn't it fall? When only a year ago you were buying Weedicide at 850 cedis, and now it is 800 cedis, and now it's about 450 cedis. It has to reduce. When at the same time, a year around this time, inflation was 23%, and it's now 6.3%. Why must it continue to go up? When at the same time, we were dealing with an exchange rate of about 15 cedis to $1, and now it's hovering around 11, 12 cedis. It has to go down. So this morning, a lot of farmers are not happy with your rendition that prices of maize are going down, foodstuffs are going down because there is a general downturn in the economy. No, because factors that pushes prices up have gone down. I just gave you an example of around this same time, the policy rate of Bank of Ghana was 27%. Now you are dealing with 18.3%.
So, but how do we deal with the glut? You see, that's another challenge because, yes, because there's been the reduction in all of these inputs, it's led to the harvest being higher. Then we have to create avenues for demand and ensure that the areas in the country that need the food actually get it.
Absolutely.
So it's a big problem as well that has
After I was coming there, I mean, the solution is in the GTP, and I'm happy to let you understand that we handed this a copy of the GTP to President Mahama. We of the United Party do not understand why cocoa board. I mean, when farmers produce or farm cocoa, do they send their products to Makola or where to find buyers? It is a state that has put in place has aided private sector to be buying cocoa. It has licensed a lot of companies to be going to the farm gates to be buying cocoa, and there is a clearly defined structure for how we buy cocoa. Why can't we do or replicate same for the other foodstuffs? There has to be people in the system, private sector, licensed to be buying yam, to be buying maize, to be buying all other foodstuffs and store it like we do with cocoa. Because nobody can convince me that there is no demand. There is demand in Ghana, there is demand in the ECOWAS region, there is demand in the African region. You are talking about a continent that is about 1.2 billion human beings. I mean, Alfred, you were in this country when Russia-Ukraine was happening. What were we not being told? That because the Black Sea also had been blocked, foodstuffs were not coming into Africa, and so because of that, prices went up. And if we are not producing it here, we are saying that we don't have demand. We have demand. What is rather impeding this demand is the fact that we must begin to look straight into politicians' faces, people in authority, and tell them that cause those that finances your activities to reduce their import, cause the laws to work. I mean, I have heard people speak of the Gukon Kitikiti. It is one of the brilliant policies that I've ever seen in my life. But that policy will fail if you continue to allow politicians, if you continue to allow party financiers to continue to import dead chicken. What's the name? This Ayarifo chicken into this country from Brazil, from the Netherlands, from the United States, without promoting our local one. That is why there seems not to be any demand for it. Because you see, if you are going to do the cost-benefit analysis, a maize in Ghana, a bag of maize in Ghana is expensive than a maize coming from South Africa. And human beings will behave rationally at any given time. And so they would rather prefer to buy the cheaper one as against the expensive one coming from Ghana. So government must, first of all, and as it is doing, try and reduce the various factors that influence production. And beyond that, make sure that import substitution, we buy some of the products that are coming. And that is the only way we will provide the much needed demand for our local waste. And this, for me, must be work in progress. We must encourage that. And once we do that, the teeming youth, it's not government that is going to offer them employment, but it's the private sector that will do that.
I thank you very much for this. And this is a continuous conversation. We're setting the ball rolling with this morning. But then again, it's actually would then...
It's 12.8, it's not 13.0.
Well, we rounded it up, yes.
So the unemployment...
It's a roundup.
12.8 is rounded up to 13.
So it's not entirely wrong. Yes. Anyway, but thank you, gentlemen, for this, for your thoughts on how the way forward would look like. What was expected was to proffer solutions and proposals from you in dealing with this, and we've got it. We'll come back to it again in the coming weeks as well. But this is key point. Our next issue on the table, exactly a week ago, we sat here and talked about the Bandai election rerun. If things were playing out without what happened on Monday, we would have been preparing for that election in 10 days. But the courts this week made a pronouncement that the Electoral Commission should suspend all preparations towards that particular election. One reason, that one, the NDC candidate, as of the day that this matter was heard in court, talking about the application of Matunyendam to have the court quash the ruling of the Tamale High Court that essentially led to the rerun of the decision to rerun the elections, the parliamentary elections in the Bandai constituency. wanted the Supreme Court to quash that decision. The NDC candidate has not been served as of Monday. Well, the lawyers for Matthew Nyandam say that he has been invading service, so the court granted substituted service. We'll have an update on that. But as expected, the lawyers for Matthew Nyandam were elated, full of gratitude to the courts for that particular decision. Here's Fatima Abubakar, and then she's a private legal practitioner, and then also Evans Nemakon, all speaking to the media after that court hearing on Monday. Take a look.
I would like to express our most profound gratitude to the bench. The Honorable Court, in the interest of justice, has listened to the prayer of the legal counsel for the applicants and has ordered that the second interested party, which is the Electoral Commission, should suspend all preparations towards conducting the rerun in Pandai constituency on 30th December and wait until such a time that the main or the substantive case, which is the application for an order of certiorari from this court seeking to quash the judgment delivered by the High Court in Tamale on 24th November 2025. Also, the Honorable Court has ordered that we serve the first interested party, or Mr. Misala Wapal, the NDC parliamentary candidate by substituted service, through his WhatsApp, the High Court Tamale notice board at the Supreme Court, and also at his residence in Pandai. We prayed for suspension of the process, pursuant to the hearing of the substantive matter, and that is contained in the supplementary affidavit that was served on the Honorable Court. So we are most grateful to the court.
We have a situation where this judgment has been given, it is being contested, and other interested parties will run so fast and not allow the process to go to its conclusion. That for me is not fair. And so what the Supreme Court has given today will send a signal to all those who thought that they can have their way. It is important that we allow the law to rule.
Well, that's the Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party there. These were the concerns, the main concerns of Matthew Nyandam in this certiorari application. We're going to put that on the screen right now. And gentlemen, I'll come to you on this. And it is that the judge assumed jurisdiction despite the petition filed beyond 21 days after Gazette publication. The petition was filed 32 days after the Gazette publication. This is a position that has been contested by the likes of Rosin Nafia, who was here with us last week. And with the release that he sought, the declaration that parliamentary election petition was invalid, an order quashing the judgment of the Tamale High Court, any other orders as the court deems fit. And this is it. Well, Martin Pebu, a week ago, in fact, prior to this decision or the intervention by the court on Tuesday, some lawyers, including Justice Abdullahi, who's seated by you, had already posited and made that point that to the extent that there were pending applications, it would have just been okay and right for the Electoral Commission to wait for the determination of these applications before even going ahead with any rerun preparations. Yeah. And clearly that's what has been reflected in the court's ruling, is it not? That EC halted, in fact, come and enter appearance, which you haven't done before anything else. So what informed the EC's own thinking as against what the court has decided now?
Yeah, okay, Mr. Okansi. So, and last week, I was one of the proponents of the idea that, look, because the Supreme Court says, look, henceforth, you can't stop a public officer from performing the duties until there's an express order. For me, I was with the EC, they should go ahead. Now, so this decision by the Supreme Court that the EC should stop is what underlines what we say in law. You hear lawyers say the life of the law has never been one of logic. In law, it's not logic that, 1 + 1 will automatically lead to 2. No, sometimes 1 + 1 will lead to 3, like in in management, synergies, right? So sometimes the decisions vary, but as we sit across, there are 3 lawyers here. You can't point out, okay, in law, that automatically once you file an application for certiorari, it should stop the EC from working. That's not law. So, Mr. Okansi, let's get that very clear. No lawyer can show that because you merely filed an application, and what I have seen here is the application for certiorari. It doesn't they have motion on notice for judicial review in the nature of certiorari. Simple. It doesn't have a stay of execution component here. Okay? So, and the Supreme Court, what they do is that it's selective. It's based on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
So it's not wrong that the EC went ahead. There's nothing wrong because the Supreme Court itself that gives the guidance. Because sometimes you would wait, then they say, but you have an important matter to deal with, go ahead. We're here when Oliver Baka-Vormawor filed against the e-levy. What didn't government do? They rode roughshod, went ahead and implemented e-levy because we were told that we're going to raise billions and billions and billions, and so there would be jobs and jobs and jobs. And you see, because it was very attractive and the teeming youth, unemployed youth, etc., were expectant, you see that the argument of government sounded very cogent. And you, who born dog, if you spoke against it, then it appeared that you didn't want the young people to get jobs. We went ahead, implemented e-levy, notwithstanding proceedings in the Supreme Court. Where did we land? We landed in a ditch. E-levy never was the e-levy that Ofori-Atta projected that it was. And today, where is Ofori-Atta? It's fled the jurisdiction. So you see, I can give you 1,001 examples of situations in which cases have been filed in the Supreme Court, and yet public officers have gone on. So for this one that the Supreme Court has stopped the EC, it's okay. In law, we say the life of the law is not logic. It is one of experience. And so for me, the key thing is that you won't find one lawyer who would come and open the law books, right, and tell you that, this thing is no-brainer. This is first principles. Once a case has been filed in the Supreme Court, automatically you should stop. Mr. Okansi, I'm telling you that you won't find one lawyer who will say automatically. Right. It depends on the circumstances. And like somebody said, it's like the experience of the 6 blind men who had to touch an elephant. One touched the husk, another the ears, and then the various parts. So each person described the elephant differently. That's the way law is. So, and the judges, as they said, they have different ideologies, all right? And each case is different. Each case is unique. No 2 cases are the same. So we would not make much of the fact that the Supreme Court said the EC should stop. Let's go to the merits. Because before then, look, they will tell you, okay, let me cite one case a bit. There are many. But you see, Republic versus High Court, ex parte CN Goldfields, where the Supreme Court made a distinction between an application for supervisory jurisdiction, so like what has been filed here, and an application for stay of proceedings or that. So the main thing we're saying is that if you file the certiorari, that by itself didn't even mean that the High Court, if it had anything to do, should automatically stop. No. So even the court itself, so like what they filed in the Supreme Court, if there was still anything in the High Court and the judge wanted to continue, sometimes you continue and then they go to the Supreme Court, then we all, including myself, we will go and then we lose. So it's not automatic. Let's get that very clear. So that it's not as if there was one clear law that, hey, once any paper has been filed in the Supreme Court, stop. There's no such law. It depends on what has been filed, the contents of it. And I'm saying that what was filed in the Supreme Court is just an application for certiorari. It's an application that by itself is not an application for stay of execution. That's the one that, if you saw it, then you would say that, hey, they say stay of execution, at least try and respect it. That's stronger. At least that I'm talking about what I've seen.
So if
and
you
even the
reference-
stay of execution itself, you see that there are issues with it. That nowadays, when you file it, still the matter of public officer. But what I'm saying that what I've seen from the Supreme Court is an application for judicial review. Specifically, when we say certiorari, to make it in simple terms, what the person is saying is that the High Court has made a big mistake, so big that we don't need to use appeal. You see that when you are going to do an appeal takes long. Right. You have to file process, you have to copy everything that happened in the High Court, make it into a book, serve the other party 3 weeks to respond. This other person has 21 days, 21. Then after they say, so in simple terms, when you are doing an appeal, it's long. But this certiorari application, quick, within 1 month, 2 months, they are done, right? So I'm making the point that we do it when the mistake is very big. So in this case, see, the MPP is saying that the petition was filed after 21 days. That's their case. We'll wait for the Supreme Court to decide. So they are saying that election petitions, you file within 21 days after the Gazette notification. Yes. So MPP is saying no, in this case, it went beyond 21 days. Okay. So if you fall outside that time, it should not be entertained at all. So because it's such a huge mistake, all right, that's how come they've applied for certiorari, right? And I'm saying that, yes, you can apply for, but it doesn't automatically mean that the EC should stop. If you want EC to stop automatically, you know what to file. What has been filed doesn't automatically stop the EC. I think let's just distinguish it. The EC out of, courtesy, just saying that, well, what do we lose? It's just in any event, the NDC has a huge super majority, 2/3, etc. I could have said we'll wait, right? But you see, there was also pressure. So for me, really, looks like we're spending too much time on it, when maybe we should be spending more time on Galamsey, looking at the efforts NIMOS is making, because for us in law, it's almost nothing. It's just a lot of noise about, EC is being asked to stop. It's nothing. It's nothing at all.
What you have done was just to also put an understanding. What you have done is actually confirming and complementing the reason why this has to be discussed. What you have just done.
Okay, cool. Okay. Cool. Want to see more on the Galamsey fight? What about this?
We talked about it, and I because you have expatiated your point in a way that does not downplay the essence of this matter. I didn't want you to even end by questioning why we are discussing it.
Oh, no, I mean like the way I get it.
You get it?
Yes. See, okay, that part is withdrawn. I get that side. What I do is that it's so simple in law that, okay, I get it.
Well, but now the decision has been taken. And in fact, let me just put it in context that this decision by the courts to ask the Electoral Commission to halt the preparation was predicated on the granting of the request for substituted service. Because at the time, the NDC candidate had not been served. And the position of the lawyers for Matthew Nyandam was that he was evading service. And the Electoral Commission had not even entered appearance. And that's why the presiding judge on this particular case indicated that why should the EC go ahead to prepare for an election when there is a case that it has not even entered appearance.
No, they say the appearance, like they've not filed their responses, their response, not specifically appearance, because appearance can be a technical word. Let's leave it out. So they've not filed their response.
And so that's one of the concerns that they raised in there. That's the only other reason why there has been this decision to put the preparations on hold. It brings the matters into context, you see. So then you're explaining that the Electoral Commission couldn't have been stopped. It's inked in law. That case you reference of the Republic versus High Court, the ex parte, the Sian Goldfields matter. Just I bring you out a point because it's a seminal authority on this, on the legal effect of a nullity and the boundaries of the High Court's own jurisdiction when it comes to whether or not a statutory body can be stopped by the mere application that has actually been filed at a particular court. You recall that last week, Nelson Roxon Dafemokpo referenced the current state of CI-19, Rule 27, that also addresses this matter. But then the court say that to the extent that one party has not been served, put everything on hold, right? And you also come because you are a party to the case, and let's hear you out. That's what has led to this development now. I thought that I should put that matter in context before.
Actually, it's not entirely accurate, a true reflection of what happened. What happened was rather that in filing the application for certiorari, the applicants, that's the MPP side,
Matthew Nyendam,
filed in addition an application for the suspension of the elections. So this is what the public probably do not know. There was an application, a formal application, but that formal application is coming on the 13th. The return date is on the 13th of January. I think this fact is not known.
Yeah.
So the Supreme Court didn't so moto suspend. But one way or the other, you can still say that because the application has not been heard yet. So on the basis of the filed application for the suspension, the Supreme Court accepted that once that application was pending, then it was just right and proper to suspend the rerun of the election until the return date, which is on the 13th of January. So this is what actually happened. Now, if you heard my interview on that day, I expressed a lot of surprise about the intervention of the Supreme Court. It is not something that you see often. It was a huge shock for me, not a negative one for that matter, but rather the fact that you do not see the Supreme Court doing this very often. And so when Martin said that, indeed, as for the Supreme Court, they can do all kinds of things, it is right that that's what they do. I mean, they can put a very surprise one on you at any given point in time. Mind you, remember, per their constitution, the Supreme Court is not bound by anything. And so you do not go there expecting, I mean, there's a legitimate expectation that if a decision has been given in a particular way, when you go there, you expect them to reaffirm that decision. But don't be surprised if they go the opposite direction, because that is what the Supreme Court is made of. And so it is on the basis of this application that I said that the Supreme Court did this thing. And I described the decision as a wise one and a very good one. And I reaffirmed that on the basis that we have an election to be run on the 30th of December. There is an application for certiorari. Now, the effect of that application for certiorari are only two. One, either to quash the entire judgment of the court that gave rise to the rerun, or to affirm that decision. Well, not technically not to affirm, but to reject the application, in which case the rerun would go on. What sense would it make for you to run the election on the 13th, on the 30th, have an MP elected, and then just 2 days later, in fact, a few weeks later, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, have a decision that could throw out that decision of the High Court, for which reason the MP was elected. Now, in effect, what it means is that you could have an MP for just 2 weeks. Now, whose time are you wasting? What kind of sense does it make? However, of course, if the decision goes the opposite way and the new MP remains in office, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
But you cannot take chances. So when the Supreme Court says, wait until just 13, this is barely 2 weeks, 13th or 16th, whichever date the court decides on these matters, you would be thinking that at this point the Supreme Court is being more reasonable and more practical with the events emanating from the High Court's decision. This is more practical, this is more logical. It is a savings to our resources of any kind. And I commend the Supreme Court for doing that. Now, let's remember that, even though I'm hesitant to say this, but this is not the kind of Supreme Court that you would have witnessed even a year ago. A year ago, you wouldn't have ever met this kind of Supreme Court. Say it again.
Okay, make your point. Continue.
That's part of my.
And that is unfair. Let me not take the
out of myself.
Seriously, this is unbelievable So for the first time, I felt so good that for once we have a completely independent Supreme Court that is more in tune with the sentiments of the nation than it is with the interests of individuals and political parties. And for that, I commend the Supreme Court emphatically for that kind of decision.
See, and you see, this development of what the Supreme Court has done regarding the some statement that was even attributed to the presiding judge on this particular issue. And gentlemen, you are being heard, so please. Yes. On why certain things were even being done even when there was a pending application. As I told, bring you in here because whether or not this election will take place is one that at least is been determined now. The lawyers for the NDC candidates say their client was not evading service and that were the court bailiffs that could not find him. I want to quickly get an update whether Maliba, your candidate has been served now after the granting of statutory service by the court.
I have no information on that.
There's no information on that. Dr. Sato, on this.
Yeah, no, it was something that Justice Ablai said that piqued my
interest.
interest.
But don't forget that it has now been ordered substance service. So once that is done, wherever he is, he has been served.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it was something that he said that piqued my interest, of course. Because he said the fact that the Supreme Court did not want, for us and them, to conduct the elections. What if you conduct the elections and then after that, the Nyindam wins the case? You would have ended up with... So the question, and then I asked him...
Those are my interpretations.
I know.
The mind of the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
But this is the most logical
So I think, was that not the argument of the Tokono and her lawyers? Wasn't that the same argument they made? That if you... No, I'm just trying to see. That's something I'm asking.
Allow me to help, as I allow you to help.
I'm trying to...
No, wait. No, gentlemen, please.
Oh.
If you ask the question, do you want a clarification?
Yes, from him. I don't mind. I mean, he's superior to me when it comes to these things. I don't mind him teaching me.
But why are you importing the...
No, because I'm saying it's a principle. He made a principle that, that if it is not, let me know that. Right. Probably why the Supreme Court made this ruling was because the Supreme Court could have said, okay, if the elections was held on 31st, and then later there was a ruling that says that, that in favor of Nyindam, we would have wasted resources and time electing a candidate, but it would have been not for right.
That's his reason.
Yeah, that's his reason. So I'm trying to feed on that, or I shouldn't.
Yes.
Then, wasn't that the same argument or a similar argument that lawyers for Tokono were making? That look, there are still cases in court challenging this thing. So why can't we wait for the termination of those cases before we proceed? So that if right now, I think the last leg of the case is the ECOWAS Supreme. If the ECOWAS rules in favor, what happens? I think, is it not a similar thing? You see, you do the...
Okay, gentlemen,
yes.
Hold on.
Situation.
So you see, hold on.
No, wait. No, actually, that's not even the answer to that. The answer is not about whether the Supreme Court can change their minds or not. The answer is because the variables are completely different. Completely different. Okay. Now, let me give you 100 instances why they are different. You can. First, Tokonu's application was based on an appeal. First, it was on an appeal. Second, based on an application at the Supreme Court. All of which were, if you like, in fact, the Supreme, the court, what's it called, the ECOWAS Court, was a court of first instance. It would mean that it will take forever. Only God knows when it will be done. So, do we wait until, let's say, 5 years before we have a Chief Justice? Clearly, that would not make any sense. Or relative to this one, we are dealing with just 2 weeks or 1 week. They are two different things.
So if let's say if ECOWAS rules today in favor of Tokono,
Dr. Zato, you know what? Hold on, gentlemen. All of this is part of your time.
You see what Amaliba is doing, right? You see what he's doing. No. I want to put that. I am saying that part of this program, people are learning. So I'm saying that. Okay, you know what? It's okay. Listen. No. I just want to. Yes, I've said that because people are listening, and maybe there are people to whom
hold on.
I am doing this and you are doing it. So I'm saying, okay,
gentlemen, hold on.
Okay, let's go. Let me go ahead.
The reason why I asked you whether you would want an answer to your question is that it was going to be part of your
I don't-
submission.
I don't
And that's
mind.
why when you ceded.
Good. Yes,
to it-
that was why I was having a conversation
so have you,
with
have
Justice.
you gotten your clarity now? You can
I've
move
got my
on.
clarity. Thank
Okay,
you. I've
go.
got my clarity. I can go. I can go. I can go. I can go.
No, he's
thank
saying
you.
he's
Thank you.
been cla-
Thank you. I've
he's
got to
been-
my clarity now.
he's
Thank you.
gotten
Let's go.
there.
You see, where I come from, the gods hate nonsense. Where I come from, the gods hate injustice. Where I come from, the gods hate bullies. And that is why you realize that when they were looking for this man to save him, he ran away, went and hid in his village. And that is why the gods sent beasts there to go and deliver justice. I am making my presentation.
What do you mean?
What I mean is that when the NDC people went to Pandai to go and campaign, instead of receiving this, and the gods sent beasts there. And the beasts attacked them. It's spirituality. Oh, they said, did beasts attack them or no? Beasts attacked them. Yes, exactly.
Hold on. Wait.
I am, you see, yes.
Dr. Zato, you see,
I am saying that there's a connection between the beast attack and injustice and unfairness.
But how do you
gone to the US. Yes. So also send them.
Okay.
Your village should have gone. You don't send the beast to attack you. What's the problem?
You see,
I can't make my I am doing that. If you allow me, I'll just make that case.
Yes, I was just going to.
Thank
you see, you don't have to marry two very separate events.
No, I don't think they are separate. My presentation is that they are not separate. My presentation is that injustice and unfairness is being done, and the gods said they are wrapped as beasts to come and teach them a lesson. That's part of my presentation.
How do you even ascertain that?
I have done that. I'm telling you that. I've just told you that when the gods are angry, they can send rain, they can send tender, they can send beasts. They send beasts to evict justice on injustice going to happen. So that's what then. Secondly, how did we get to where we are today with regards to this? I've made this case again and again. Violence tends to beget violence. We came here because of violence at the Coalition Center in Pandai.
Okay.
And my point has always been, throughout this week, I've been making this point that whatever we do, the courts will do their own thing. But whatever we do, either through policy or through any law we make, we need to be able to remove violence from our election centers. We need to make sure that Pandai doesn't become a case study or a test case of how to win an election through the back door. We need to make sure that we don't reward hooliganism and vandalism at the coalition centers, because that is what brought us here. Somebody wants to ask a case. That is what, if there wasn't violence at the coalition center, if the people didn't make it impossible to do the coalition there, we wouldn't have been where we are today. And anybody, all of us must find a way to make sure that this Pandai doesn't become the test case of how to conduct elections or how to collect election results going forward. It's important for us, because if we don't do that, we'll make sure that we are glorifying violence. Okay. There's another issue that I talked about, and probably, again, one on this case, so I don't mind ceding my case to justice. There's talk about 2 Gazette dates, possible 2 Gazette dates. There's supposed to be a Gazette date on the 24th. And then there's another Gazette date. Yeah. So I'm saying, the non-lawyer me saying that if you go to court and you now present 2 Gazette dates, like how does that work?
No, these are matters before court, and that is the matter that is going to be determined. Okay.
What do you mean? What do you mean by, because we can't talk about it.
I beg you.
So there's actually,
those are the issues. Those are the issues before. I cannot talk about the issues before court.
Hold on. Yes.
No.
When you were talking the last time,
you are just interrupting what I'm saying. You see, there's something happened. That's what you I want you to talk. The Supreme Court.
Hold on. Listen to me.
Thank you. Listen to me. If the Supreme Court is supposed to hold somebody, you are the one who is. You see what?
You see, now, first of all, if you want to make an intervention, just as Justice Abdullahi did, I will grant you that when you draw my attention, I do not want you to interrupt Dr. Joshua Zato when he's talking. One, because it is his time. When I ask questions, I would give him additional time to talk. But please, let him finish his submission.
But don't
I will come to you. The point you are raising, yes, the point you are raising is not one that was not going to be raised, because he was in the process of asking a question. Then you came in. I wanted him to learn to understand the import of the question, whether it would go into the realms of contempt. Because if he goes into the realms of contempt, it's not only him, it's even the platform here.
So
that
you
will
should be
also
thanking
be
me for
held.
intervening.
So what I wanted to get is the import of your question. Dr. Zato?
Yes.
If your question borders on the matter that is to be determined in this application by Matthew Nyandam in court, then it is out of our boundaries. We cannot talk about it. Dr.
Well, we cannot discuss the merits, but we can talk about it. But
the question borders on what the court is to make a determination on. That's what I said.
Sure.
That we can't go into. So if you want to rephrase the question,
I am saying that
move on.
I have a document here.
Yes, indeed. We've all seen
that
those.
parliamentary election results 2024, talking about a gazette date on 24. I'm saying that I have that document.
Yes.
I've also then said that there is talk in the vineyard that there is possibly a second gazette date. In my non-loyally mind, I'm saying that presents us two gazette dates.
Sure.
That probably the courts now have to determine. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
So in that case, there are two gazette dates. I am now saying that raises a potential issue that which one should I take, which one shouldn't I take?
But that's a matter before the court.
Yeah, yes. So yes.
So move
But
on.
I'm saying
Move on to your point.
Pandai election is centered on that issue.
Thank you. So
okay.
it's sufficient.
So it's a big issue that has been developed. So again, as I said, finally, look, this ruling, there's something unique about this Supreme Court ruling that both political parties seem to be happy with it. They're both happy with it. One, I've heard Director of Elections for the NDC actually happy.
Well, I was attacked on the day the decision was made because I commended the Supreme Court.
Yeah, and I'm saying there's something funny about it because mostly I believe that the Supreme Court picks, mostly courts pick winners and losers. In this case, since they are both winners.
Yeah, actually
because
they are.
The NDC is happy that they're happy. They're saying, look, this gives us more time to organize the ruling and do that. I've actually heard the Director of Elections state that equivocally. Two, the Nyandam gets to still sit in Parliament. He's there, but also, as a political science, have a good current polling, and I'm going to cite Global Info Analytics, actually indicate.
I think that is a little misleading.
Okay. The elections are okay. If the course of it currently,
because it is the rerun that has been suspended, not the decision.
Okay,
of the
I get a point. Thank you for that clarification. But right now, what is supposed to happen is that so the NDC seems to be happy with the ruling because, as I said, the Director of Elections said that we are happy with this. It goes to the MPP. You've seen their lawyers also happy with it, but also current polling, and I'm going to cite Global Info Analytics, actually seems to demonstrate that Nyandam has crossed the 50% barrier to be NP if it was held today. So it will seem that current polling is using people. The people there like him, they respect him, and they value him. So if you were going by the Global Info Analytics, it then means that he was on his way to go to win the election. So by the delay, it then means that because the election are going to happen now, it may inure to the benefit of them because they get to get more time to campaign. Okay. That's what I'm saying, that this ruling seems a little bit weird because both people are celebrating the same ruling. Now, it also means that maybe the adults have spoken, and sometimes that is what I think the Supreme Court should do. Should be the adults in the room. To raise the debate and the arguments to a place higher, a place where people can better appreciate it. And I think they've done it. So the question is that, look, going forward, as I said, it will be the judges should be the lawyers and the courts will deal with it. Okay. But we shouldn't let our elections almost end up at the court because something is happening here. If we go ahead with this, remember something happened on 7th December 2024. Thousands of men and women, mothers, children, fathers left their jobs, left their lives to queue up to vote. We shouldn't just throw away all their votes as if nothing has happened.
Okay.
We shouldn't just, because there should be a fundamental principle that the votes must be protected, the ballots must be protected. If we don't, because, and look, and if you look at it, the argument started with that there were issues with about some 41 polling stations. Let's call those the rotten tomatoes or the rotten eggs. We shouldn't throw away all the other good eggs just because of this 51 freedom. So me, I will be happy. I will hope and pray that those people who voted, look, some of them are dead, but they died knowing that they voted for somebody. Some of them are what's the name? Some of them have traveled, they may not go back to vote. A lot has happened during that time. We should always be seen to be protecting the people who have voted. we should always be seen to be protecting votes, and we should always be seen to be hoping, because that is the whole essence of democracy. So I would love a system where, wake up to a system where judges and the courts become very reluctant to throw away good meat, in this case, good votes, together with what? Bad case. In that case, we are making the vote sacred. In this case, we are protecting it. So I want to see that kind of system when it comes to, but ultimately, the fact that both the ruling seems to be appealing and good to both parties means that we need to go to place. But finally, let's not glorify hooliganism and violence. That is what happened in Pandai, and that is what has led us to where we are today.
Well, yes, and then that correction had been made as to the burden, or who carries the burden of that said violence that disrupted this. I think that clarification was put out last week and last 2 weeks. It does not in any way have to be countenanced. But you see, Amaliba, the courts have made a pronouncement which both sides acknowledge. But then whether or not the election that took place in December 2024 holds is yet to be determined. And that is in the next phase of this particular case playing out. So what happened last week does not in any way legitimize the election on December 17th, Pandai, does it?
You mean the court
yes.
Saying that the issue should stay away?
Yes.
No. There's a substantive court ruling now. Mm-hmm. That is what is in force. Was the EC wrong in proceeding? The answer is no. Was the Clerk of Parliament wrong in proceeding? The answer is no. My basis is Article 1125, and it says this. And this provision speaks in authoritative terms. It speaks in mandatory terms. Whenever a vacancy occurs in Parliament, the clerk to Parliament shall, that's the first shall, notify the Electoral Commission in writing within 7 days after the vacancy occurred, and by election shall be, another shall be held within 31 days after the vacancy occurred. So there was no way that persons who have been mentioned here would breach the Constitution.
Right.
There was no way. Now, in the kind of legal system we run, that is the common law tradition that we belong to.
Amaliba, hold on. Gentlemen, please. I would appreciate if we don't have any side conversations while somebody's on the floor. Amaliba, please.
So, these institutions, Parliament and the EC, never erred by proceeding after they got the ruling. Because the Constitution demands that they do so. In our legal jurisprudence, the common law tradition that we belong to, not the civilian law tradition, which is also called civil law, but the common law tradition. The law is what the judge says is the law. Unlike the civil law tradition, where it says that the law is what the legislature says it is. You understand? Mm-hmm. In our case, and you remember there was a matter before Parliament when we were saying it was providing the Constitution that if you are presiding, you don't vote. Black and white, it's there like that.
Yeah.
It's there. You didn't need any interpretation. But once the Supreme Court said that if you are presiding and you are a member of Parliament, you can. So it is today. Mm-hmm. An example of what I'm saying, that the law is what the judges say it is. So could the EC just stop all the processes because somebody was on the Iroko tree crying that stop the elections? No. You needed a court order such as this to stop the elections. And when you check me on Joy, they reported me. Pandai elections impasse. Ibrahim Amaliba urges Supreme Court intervention. And so this intervention for me is what I wanted. I asked the question, should a constitutional duty come to a halt if processes are filed as a way to stop the constitutional body. This is the kind of ruling I want the Supreme Court to give us. Let the Supreme Court tell us that when a vacancy occurs and the EC is preparing to go to have by-elections and the vanquished party files processes, must that stop the constitutional body? This is what I want the Supreme Court to rule on.
Okay.
You get my point? I see. But there are three types of judges or courts. There are three types of judges or courts. We have the green light approach to interpretation of judicial review. We have the red light approach, and we have the amber light approach. The red light approach are those who will say that there is a human rights issue here, and that's what he spoke about. Jesabla spoke about. That what happens if in 3 days the court rules out and the election has taken place? What happens to his rights? What happens to the one who went to the Supreme Court and won, by which time the place would have been occupied? So you have a court that uses the red light the red light approach. Then you have the green light approach, who says that, look, we want things to go, we want things to happen, we want the government to continue its good work, we don't want the government to be stopped. I think that would have been one of the approaches used for the e-levy. You know, and in Nkrumah's days, some of these rulings were like that. Green light. Look, we are an independent country. We have just come. Why are you stopping development? So you can have a court like that. Then you have a court that marries the two. That's the amber light. So the Supreme Court in this case used the green light approach to say that there's a human rights issue. Can we hold on to see the determination of that matter before the EC goes on to conduct its elections? The human rights is about your man's name, Yindam's. Yeah, it's about Yindam's human rights. How do we ensure that if he wins this case, it doesn't come to a constituency that has already been occupied?
Right.
So the other thing too has to do with this court trying to claw back.
The court would have a reserved jurisdiction to make consequential orders, reversing the elections, and then in overturning the decision, questioning the decision of the High Court, reaffirm the MPship, if you like, of Yindam.
I agree with you.
Should that happen?
Yeah, I agree with you, but we don't want to get there.
Obviously not. It is completely wrong.
It's muddying the waters and all.
It is not the kind of thing anyone expects.
So, but I can see, and that's how come you don't appoint rabid political persons to the Supreme Court. You have a situation where I can tell you, and Abdullah said it, this ruling wouldn't have happened under a previous Supreme Court I know of. Look at the last 8 years. Has this EC been restrained before? The last 8 years, even for the EC to appear in a witness box, that EC was shielded. I can see the current Supreme Court trying to claw back the independence, trying to claw back the confidence that people have in the Supreme Court. And I dove my heart for the Supreme Court's ruling, because this is how we build a judiciary system that people can have confidence in. I saw the MPP's lawyer, Fatima, thanking the Supreme Court, thanking the judges, and I asked myself, was that the kind of Supreme Court we had? When I used to go to that court and I speak to them, when I was speaking, was I thanking them? When I used to also speak like the way they were speaking, and there were cameras, could I have thanked them? So I think that The current Supreme Court must continue in this fashion. Okay. When we said that we're going to reset, it wasn't for the Supreme Court to come and be giving us rulings left, right, center when we didn't deserve it. It was to have a Supreme Court that would serve the people of this country. And I do have my heart for them.
Thank you very much. And so also, on this particular issue, in the end, what has to be done right is to determine the sanctity and the eligibility of the entire process and the outcome of it, which is being contested now. That is what is the concern of both the courts and the people in Kwandai, that whoever represents them has to be legitimate. Exactly. That should be the ultimate outcome in this, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I'm very surprised that the very reasons Zato cited for the Supreme Court to consider not to, as it were, grant a rerun must be the very reason there has to be a rerun. People wake up very early in the morning to go and queue, to go and vote for a particular candidate. Now, it is the wish of the people that the very particular candidate they voted for must represent them. It cannot be that having voted for that particular person, then a single person who is supposed to work in the interest of the state will go and hide somewhere and change the will of the people. That amounts to coup d'etat. So if such situations happen, why would anybody say that the person that has been cheated has no right to go to court and seek equity? It must interest you. In fact, you must be the person to be encouraging civil people who believe in civility, not to be resorting to violence, but rather challenge election outcomes in court. And when their cases are proven, then either the elections are cancelled or the rerun is called. So I agree with what the candidate Zala did, and I believe that the right thing was that. What happened at the High Court? All of us here, at least I have seen some of the exchanges. And I dare say that anybody who is sitting in the comfort of his home and blaming the judge, Justice Plange, for doing something untoward, I don't know where he's coming from. And I keep hearing my brothers Zato use the example of the bees as representing untruthfully. And then these bees are not serious bees. These bees are just village bees, discriminatory bees. Because who gave the judgment? Why would the bees forgo the judge that gave the ruling that there has to be a rerun and go and attack the NDC, that two party in an election? So you cannot say that.
The judges in Tamale.
The judges, so the bees cannot go there. You understand? The judge must be commended. If you go into the case, the judge did what is right, and that if anybody believes that he won a legitimate election, that person must be willing to go for a rerun, so that all of us will be safe. But Alfred, we cannot say this or discuss this matter without calling for the prosecution of the returning officer who has brought us to this far. This is becoming one too many. You understand? We had that of Ablekuma North. Elect returning officer, they shortened us. At the end of the day, we discussed it and we let go of them. So they are emboldened. We saw that at Isawam. We saw that in what's the name, Obuasi's, and so on and so forth. We don't do anything to them. Now what they have done, if a rerun should happen, it means it is causing financial loss to the state, because the state is going to invest in this man. Now, coming back to the New Patriotic Party and their lawyers and what they have said, you see, in this country, it's good that we all have life and wait for what happens in the future. A couple of months ago, we were in this country when this NPP and their MPs decided to boycott the vetting of Justice Bafuboni. You were in this country. What did they say? They said Justice Bafuboni was going to do the bidding of the current administration. Which Chief Justice empaneled the judges to sit on this matter?
Tokonu.
Was it Tokonu or Afenyo Markins?
Make your point.
I'm just asking a question. The Chief Justice that empaneled the judges for the judges to do justice to the matter that received a thunderous applause from Fatima Abubakar, and I'm quoting her. We are still our most profound gratitude
That was the word she used. Most profound gratitude for what he had done. Justice Bafuboni and panel D judges were in this country during the committee hearing, Tokonu's hearing, that the NPP took Justice Korpoaman to the cleaners. He and Justice Asiedu. Interestingly, these two judges sat on this matter.
Well, just to give then, Justice Gabriel Scott Poaman was the presiding.
Absolutely.
Actually. Then you had the other members, Justices Isifu Imoro Tanko Amadu, Justice Emmanuel Yoni Kolendi,
yes,
Justice Samuel Kwame Adobe Asiedu,
yes,
and Justice Henry Kofi.
And let's put it on record that Justice Scott Poaman that presided and Justice Asiedu were members of the committee that sat on Tokonu's case, that the MPP took them to the cleaners. Here is the MPP once again, led by their lawyers, praising them. And by the way, a couple of weeks ago, what did Afenyo not do? Classifying the judiciary as a kangaroo judiciary. Saying that the judge that sat on the matter in Tamale was only doing the bidding of his purposes. Is the MPP saying that what Poaman and Co did was to do the bidding of the paymasters, and here who are the paymasters? We have just been told that in Koforidua, Asiedu Bekwe, Protozua, has been declared as the validly elected parliamentary candidate for where? In Sawam. Is it not under Justice Bafuboni? Suhum, exactly. So you see, we are reshaping the system. It is for all of us to help in this matter. And not a situation where a fellow could go to court at 12 o'clock, by 3 o'clock he had an answer. Chief Justice throwing his hands about as if it didn't matter in this country. We have all lived in this country. And we saw what happened. And I believe that once they go on this tangent, all we want as a country is to get justice when we go to the court. And not that justice will be discriminated against people whose faces do not look good or do not belong to political parties that are perceived to be the political party of the Chief Justice. And that is what we are preaching for. In terms of Pandai, I have said time with that number that the moment they call for a rerun, it will be an emphatic victory for the NDC, unless they don't know election. I have said I'm a United Party member. The wave that is blowing is the NDC's wave. We can't stop it now. We will have to stop it in 2028. But for now, you can't do anything about it. You understand? So, this business of info analytics is saying it is 50.1, it is this. If it is the case, I have listened to Ninam who says that if the NDC was going to stop all their CEOs, MPs, ministers from going to Pandai to campaign and assure a level playing field, then he will win. And I asked him a simple question. Did the MPP stop all their MPs, ministers, CEOs from going to Assin-North? In fact, in the case of Assin-North, the president of the land was there to campaign. So go there and sort it out. And if you believe indeed you won by 3,700 plus votes, what is your fear? The same voter population, the same register. Human beings, by now only 10% have left the place. So you still have a substantial number of voters available to vote for you. But there used to be an advert that says if you say you are macho, go and break the echo. Go to Pandai and break it. I believe that the only way that they could survive is when the Supreme Court says that. We are waiting for the outcome of the Supreme Court verdict.
As we await the coming days on this particular issue, a number of you have sent us messages on this. So let me just clear it so that we move to the next matter. It says that the courts, Dr. Kwame Asante says, good morning. The courts must indeed be commended for this particular development. It is the consistency of the law being the law that we must see and not subject to any prejudices. You say thank you. Mohammed from Salaga says, good morning. What it says, the first part of your message. Okay, Mohammed Salaga, if you could resend the message again, because I couldn't get the real import of it. But thank you anyway. This one says, Alfred, for Agric to benefit the nation properly relative to the economy and employment, this time round, Ministry of Agric must set up a parallel structure like having kiosks or containers within cities, get direct contact with some farmers for constant supply of food items like yams, tomatoes, plantain, pepper, etc. Hence, that would direct to the buyers and people who need them, not market women. You say it's okay. Well, thank you very much for the message. Says finally, seasonal farming must be a thing of the past because it escalates price of food items. Papa Bishi from Springtex Road. Thank you very much. Richmond Dogbe. Richmond Dogbe is a farmer himself. In fact, one of the farmers who has been awarded in the past for the best farming as well. Richmond Dogbe says, please ask Dr. Zato whether he's expecting price of maize to go up when there is bumper harvest and enough of the maize in the market. Again, how many new houses were built during the 8 years of MPP? Farming existed long before 2017 arrived. So he should get his analysis right. Richmond, thank you very much for your message. And so, I asked of your hat earlier. Crystal Aye says, this is a fedora cloth hat. Fedora hats identified by their bespoke uniqueness.
Cloth hat.
Yes.
Hey, I see. Let me take a number.
He said they are made in different brim sizes and with different materials like felt, which is mostly used fabric, suede, and rare leather. So Martin Kpebu is in vogue indeed. So thank you very much, Crystal Aye, for that one. And this one here says, good morning. I am particularly happy that confidence has returned to the judiciary. You say that even MPP faithfuls have now seen the light. Progress we must. Evans Ibn Samba from Laura, thank you very much. Says, kudos to Lawyer Maliba for being consistent and truthful on this Bandai issue. Please kindly ask him why Honorable Matthew Nyandam cannot hold himself as MP for now. Dr. Zato is also making my day with his fantastic analysis. Anyway, if the law is the law, you say the bees are also the bees. Master planner,
exactly.
junior,
the bees are the bees.
policy
Whether
analyst,
village or city bees,
Kintampo. Thank you very much for your message this morning. This one here also says that Abbas Amogo in Offenso, it says that from what we are seeing now, if things continue this way, it says the MPP will be a thing of the past. Let's focus on how we can support, it says, the country to grow. Thank you very much for your messages this morning. And then a number of you watching us as well on Facebook. I've got some messages on Facebook and on X as well on this matter. Yao February on Facebook says, the question is, did the court write to Parliament to declare Bandai seat vacant, for the clerk to write to the EC for declaring Bandai seat vacant? If the court did not act so, then the clerk of Parliament has the basis to write to the Electoral Commission and say, well,
it's not the court that writes.
So that's just a
it's the
clarification.
one who won the case, who serves the process of Parliament.
Okay, thank you very much for answering him on that. So, Yao, you have the answer to the question. Yao February, thank you very much for the message. Now, this week, the Attorney General, Minister for Justice, Dr. Dominic Akuritenga Ayeni, addressed the press. In fact, it was just a couple of days ago, giving us an update on Kenneth Nanayo Foriata and then also Ernest Akore, that's his chief of staff. They are out of the jurisdiction. And he says, well, he has his office has submitted the documents for the extradition of Kenneth Oforiatta and Ernest Akore to the U.S. authorities. What happens after today, much of it is out of his control. And so we just have to wait. There are questions about, what could have been done within his control. And that's going to be another aspect of the conversation. But this is what the Attorney General said earlier in the week on the latest with Kenneth Oforiatta and the extradition request. Take a look.
You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19th, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and Ernest Darko Akore from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review, our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request require clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised, thereby finalizing the extradition request packages. Subsequently, on December 10, 2025, my office transmitted the complete request to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for onward transmission to the competent authorities in the United States of America. That is, in this case, the Department of Justice of the United States. At this point, it is left to the American authorities, especially the judicial authorities, to make a determination on whether a sufficient basis exists for the two accused.
Well, that's the Attorney General. Gentlemen, please. Well, thank you. Now, the Attorney General giving us an update there, and he has indicated that, as was expected, and which is within the right of Ken Ofori-Atta, he has got top lawyers in the U.S., very experienced, to fight his extradition. And this is an update from the Attorney General as well. Let's take a listen to that.
I got to know that he has hired some of the top lawyers in the United States of America, very experienced lawyers, to, defend him. Now, I'm not afraid at all, all right? I am not afraid at all. But it means that there's going to be a fight in the federal courts in the U.S. If the district court says no, he will go to the circuit court, all right? If the circuit court says no, he's entitled to go to the U.S. Supreme Court to fight his case. So I cannot tell you that he will come tomorrow or he will come the next day, okay? And I'm just being honest. Accounting to the people means being explicit and truthful. So this is what...
That is the Attorney General being explicit and truthful. He says he cannot give a timeline to when Ken Ofori-Atta is going to come, because with this process, much of it is out of his control. And Justice Abdullahi, as was expected, Ken Ofori-Atta is fighting his extradition. He's got the top lawyers, that's according to the Attorney General, top lawyers, very experienced in the United States, to fight this extradition request that Ghana has just started as well. But before you come in, let me acknowledge the presence of Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah. He's a governance expert and former advisor on governance to the United Nations. Professor Baffour Agyeman-Duah, good morning. Thank you for joining us. If you can unmute for me, please.
Oh, yeah.
We couldn't hear you.
Yes, I said good morning, and good morning to you. And it's a pleasure for me to join the group.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Justice Abdullahi, this is the latest on Ken Ofori-Atta.
That is so. My time-tested principle has always been that the decision of the current Attorney General to continuously update the people of Ghana is the sort of Attorney General that we need in this country. It is literally right to say that it is arguably the best that we need, to the extent that it keeps all of us informed and it enables us to participate in the national discourse and how matters of this nature are handled. Participatory democracy would involve that you are well informed of what is happening as a citizen, and so you can make your opinions known and contribute to national development. And so, to that extent, I commend the Attorney General for informing us of the events culminating into the issues involving the former finance minister. Having said that, my position has been that we have waited for far too long to get to this point. It's for me, it's quite sickening that, it's taken us a whole year of back and forth to get to this position. I think that by now, either the former finance minister should have been convicted if he indeed is guilty of the offenses, or the issues involving his office would have come to some level of closure so that we move on as a nation. We cannot spend a whole year now trying to get him back into this country and then spend another year or more to try and possibly take a decision as to whether to be convicted or not. But I'm not oblivious saying this of the fact that it is very difficult and time-consuming to conduct investigation into white-colored crimes. It is very time-consuming.
It's not a walk in the park. That's what
it's not something you can simply just wake up the next day and have all the evidence that you need in order to be able to file a charge against God, in court. Particularly when you look at the charges that have been filed, about 70+ charges. 78, thank you. It's not a joke. The lawyers who even drafted this might have done a thorough work to be able to come up with that. But thinking about it, however, I was asking myself whether we couldn't have preferred lesser charges that would have been all-embracing.
What do you mean lesser charges?
Go for the bigger ones. There are always bigger charges that can secure you the highest conviction, rather than focusing on the minor ones, which may probably may not be misdemeanor, but possibly get you 3 years or 4 years. But if you can get charges that can get you 25 years or more, because most of the fraud and stealing cases, you can have up to 25 years and thereabout. And so why wouldn't you focus on those ones? Unless, of course, admittedly, having looked at all the 78 charges, if all of them involve acts of stealing and of fraud or defrauding, then, of course, I have very little to contribute to that.
Corruption and corruption-related offenses being some of it, there's some money laundering in there somewhere.
Yes, so, like I said, I haven't looked at everything, so I will not pretend to know it all. But my point is that if it is possible to look at the bigger ones in relative to the convictions, I would recommend that we adopt that approach rather than this one appears to me as fishing, so that you don't leave any stone unturned, and that, for me, it doesn't help. But of course, I'm not a prosecuting authority, so if this is what they believe is the right thing, let's go by it. But we should have had a closure on this subject, and that presents to me yet another question: how the United States government would readily commend the Republic of Ghana for always making our people available to be extradited, but they would not do the same when we need that.
You say they will not do the same.
Yeah, i.e. not give us our citizens who are within their jurisdiction. The process is almost the process is almost done. The process is almost done. That's my point. Yet when the table turns, we do not get the same level of cooperation from the government of the United States.
If we talk about
cooperation by way of getting the people back here.
But that follows a particular process. In fact,
of course, we know it follows a process.
The treaty, the 1931 treaty.
You don't think that ours follows the process? Ours follows the same process. In fact, we have almost the same process. Oh, it's almost the same. In fact, almost all Commonwealth countries follow similar processes. You will need the central authority to accept your if you like, the entire docket relating to the person.
Yes.
And then you have to go to your court, local court, to accept and make a formal order to extradite the person before the entire process kicks in for the person to be sent out. So there are similar structures, similar procedures, maybe a little detailed differences and all of that. But then again, I blame ourselves for some of these difficulties. You see, when it comes to the U.S. fighting crime, they see it purely as crime. They do not see political or ethnic or any other sides of it. In our part of the world, everything has been politicized. When in fact we should be looking at the crime per se, we rather tend to look at it from the angle of political persecution. And I can say on authority that one of the arguments that would feature in the U.S. court would be on this subject of political persecution. That would be the argument to be made.
Because it's actually one of the grounds under the treaty.
I have not seen
that the treaty that chapter
No, I'm not talking about the treaty. I'm talking about the argument Ofori-Atta will be making.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And it is the biggest argument.
As one of the conditions for extradition, that whether or not the subject of the extradition request is going to be, or there's a probability of political persecution if he is extradited. It's one of the conditions as well, and under Chapter 3 of the Treaty 1931 that it talks about.
So my point is that because we have turned crime into politics, chances are that this will be the biggest defense in the U.S. court. And once that happens, the people of Ghana stand to lose gravely, because chances are that they will accept this, and this gets muddier when you look at how the discourse has been within the space here. Everybody talks about it from the NPP, NDC perspective, when in fact we should be looking at the commission of crime in itself, simply and pure and simple. And so the summary of my submission is that we as people should be, we should refrain at every point in time from making political crime or national issues such as this. We should refrain from adding politics and political angles to it, so that when people, and then look at it purely from what it is, when people are presented to court, I do not think that our courts are so gullible that when a person is brought there, we cannot see through to identify whether this one is witch hunting as against a real crime that ought to be fought and all of that. So if you look at it from that angle, if you treat people from that angle, if you make our fight against crime and corruption from this perspective, I think we'll be the ultimate winners. And now we have presented the Attorney General with one of the most difficult cases because of this. I just hope and pray that the Attorney General wins this battle and be able to bring Ken Ofori-Atta. But my question once again, as I keep asking on regular and daily basis, is this: why is Ken refusing to come answer to these charges? What is the problem? Jokes aside, the man said he was our father. And if your kids are accusing you of some wrongdoing, why can't you just come back and tell us that you have indeed not done what we accuse you of doing? More so when you have one of the best lawyers in Ghana to defend you. I find it very difficult. Maybe I'm naive. Maybe I'm very naive about these matters. But I feel strongly that if indeed you are alleged to have committed a crime, the stature and nature of the man in issue, the man in question, he's not the person that you can easily politically persecute and get away with it, because he has a lot of he has the nature of the former president and his family, all these big guys. I do not think that they will simply sit back and watch their fellow being taken to the without any intervention. They will definitely intervene. In fact, just last week we heard of an intervention from the former president's office, which in fact he has come to deny. In fact, that indeed he has not talked to the current president about anything and all of that.
Regarding
the truth or otherwise of it, only God knows. I don't care. But my point is that he can never simply be treated like any ordinary person. And luckily for us, we have had the Attorney General assuring all of us that indeed the former finance minister will be treated in accordance with law like any other Ghanaian. And so that for me is reassuring. It is positive, and it is a kind of narrative that we need to put out there, so that the people of the United States do not see us as going after our own fellows for nothing really under their sleeves. So let's focus on getting the right things done. Let's bring Ofori-Atta to this country. Let's prosecute if he's innocent. Let's acquit him, and all of us have a closure on this subject.
But as to whether the Attorney General has any other alternative as against the point that he made about much of what's going to happen next being outside of his control, because he has just started the extradition request. Now it is left to the U.S. authorities to tick the boxes under all the conditions captured within the extradition treaty 1931, which is still binding on us, to take all the conditions. Even then, Kenneth Ofori-Atta, having now also gotten the best of lawyers, as he has indicated, top lawyers to fight this, and they have experience in doing so, it sends also another signal of what the Attorney General said. Professor Bafaraji-Menduya, you raised concern about how all of this, the current structure of accountability in our judicial system also gives room for persons who are accused of corruption to take advantage of it. And this was a point that Daniel Domelevo made earlier. If we have to get serious in the fight against corruption, then some things must change in our current judicial architecture. What should we be looking at?
Well, thank you, and good morning to my good friends in there. First of all, it is true that at some point, there was a high level of distrust in the judiciary. And as we speak, there are still some suspicions about how our judiciary is managing its business. Of course, lately, certain decisions, and that is typical of Ghanaian politics. If it goes in your favor, normally you praise. If it goes against you, then of course you condemn. And that has been what we have subjected the judiciary to. But specifically to Ken's case, I think that so far the OSP and the Attorney General have followed the procedure, the legal procedure that must be followed if you are seeking extradition. So far as I know, they've done this. So if the Attorney General is saying that it's now in the hands of the U.S. office, then certainly he's right. But let us understand, then the U.S., if you want somebody extradited to you, it could be a long process because they give you the room to appeal, to make all kinds of cases. As I think my good friend Dr. Abdullah is saying, they will be looking at the history of the judicial system here. And if Ken is going to plead that, look, this is going to be a political prosecution, because prior to my case, immediately after my case, there have been these incidents that seem to suggest strongly that they are seeking for me for political reasons. I hope that doesn't really fly. But I think what is important, a point that he made that I really appreciate, is why can Mr. Ofori-Atta, as a patriot who has managed our economy for 8 years, why is he afraid of his own country at this point? And I don't believe people are being thrown away into jail for no reasons in this country, because he, as a finance minister, must be accountable to the people in terms of how he managed the economy. It's as simple as that. But if he thinks strongly that his own country, he cannot feel safe in his own country, then he has to really give the evidence to the Americans. So I guess what I'm saying is that if we become public officials and we are incapable of being accountable to our own people because we feel that we may have done something wrong, because I believe strongly if Ken does not feel that he has done something wrong, then I cannot understand why he's afraid to come back his own people to face these charges. And if he's gotten good lawyers, but I'm afraid for all kinds of reasons, maybe medical, as we are told at times, and his own sense of insecurity, if he comes back, he's going to fight this as much as he can. As we are told, he's gotten perhaps the best lawyers, or among the best lawyers in the U.S. So corruption, coming back to your original question, your point, corruption is not institutions that we create. I appreciate the work of the OSP, the Attorney General, and the others. But ultimately, corruption can be stemmed if the values of society changes. At the moment, I'm afraid we have lost some core values that will guide our behavior, our social behavior, our relationships, and many others. If we do not find a way to resuscitate those old cherished values, that's what I'm talking about, values. Integrity. That is the bottom line, because corruption, by the way, is not just the politicians, as all of us know. At the lowest levels, you find, I came through the airport a few days ago. Well, the lady was quite gentle about it though, but he did ask, oh, it's Christmas time, so what do you give me? Well, Christmas, I can't fall her, of course, I didn't give her anything. But these are the subtleties of behavior, because if you have self-respect and integrity, you're not going to ask a stranger to give you a Christmas present. So I guess my point here is that our biggest challenge is how we get our mindset changed. And I think as President Mahama is embarking on the resetting of the country, mindset should be one of the key issues. And how we introduce an educational system that develops the sense and respect for integrity in our young people. Because otherwise, we will create all kinds of institutions we want. We can create all the laws. And at times, even people are afraid that in as much as we need lawyers in our country, people are afraid that, and I've heard people say that the lawyers could be part of the problem because they know the law, they know the loopholes, and even if somebody is clearly corrupt and on technical legal grounds, you get him escape, then we're not going forward. So I guess my point is that in addition to everything we need to be practical in terms of laws and institutions and regulations and all, we also have to be serious about helping to develop a new mindset based on values that are rocked in integrity.
In integrity, that particular word is what then dovetails into the question you asked as to if Ken Ofori-Atta believes that he hasn't done anything wrong, why is he afraid to come back home to his country? Now, this is where, Dr. Zato, if that's the case, why is he afraid to come back to the country?
Oh, okay.
If he hasn't done anything wrong, if he believes so.
Thank you very much. The simple answer, I don't know. I don't know Ken. I've never met Ken. I've never seen. I don't know. The closest I've seen Ken is on TV. So there are certain things that are important. And thank you, Prof, for excellent listening. I am genuinely and sincerely afraid and scared that the way the AG and the OSP office is handling this Ken case, it may end up being like oral. It may all end up just being a very lost case. And I'm hoping it doesn't get it.
What's a very lost case?
No.
I'm saying I'm afraid.
He's my
brother.
He allows me.
He allows me. Justice is allowed. He's allowed. Solomon is not allowed. Fable is not allowed. Very discriminatory. So I'm afraid that the way they are handling both of them, because I see a lot of complicity in what is happening here. My brother Martin has always thought that one of the first time he got a case with OSP is that he allowed Ken to leave. Yes, he's legitimate in saying that. I agree with that. But then the other question then I also ask is that the Attorney General knew he alone had the power to apply for extradition. Probably he knew that. Why did he also wait until December to apply for an extradition? I see some complicity there. Both are complicit. Why now?
Okay.
Why now? Because the question I'm asking is that even if this guy was handling it, and there's a difference between independent and collaboration. Independent bodies collaborate. In fact, sometimes to be an effective independent body, we call it public arm's length organizations, they have to collaborate to survive. So if you are Attorney General, I'm not saying dictate to OSP that do this, no. But if you know the law, and as you are the custodian of it right now, and you know that you alone, or you have a bigger power to call for an extradition, if the guy is not doing it, did you reach out? Because see, there was one time there was some quibbling between the two of us.
There was a question that I asked the Deputy Attorney General. And because extradition requests cannot be done in oblivion, he requested the docket from the OSP. It took quite a while. And the Deputy Attorney General came publicly to let us even know that they had requested information from the OSP and it wasn't coming.
Yes.
So that is just to answer the question.
So for me, so if it's taking 1 year, my point is that no matter how the administrative process works, it shouldn't take 1 full year for us to extradite somebody that we believe strongly has some serious questions to answer. That aspect, it talks about some amount of some inefficiency and ineffectiveness, and it doesn't help us. So please, whatever it was, to wait for 1 full year to be asking for this, I find it very problematic. Yes, you see, organizational inertia and organizations can give excuses. Some of them may be legitimate, others will not. But for both officers, for these two powerful officers to sit down and then only wait until now to ask for this is problematic. 2, since this government has come to power, they've done very well in their collaboration with the FBI and law enforcement agencies in the United States. And it has led to, they have sent about 1 or 2 people.
Am I mistaken to believe that this is the first time I'm hearing you praise this government?
No.
That's what I'm asking.
I'm a big fan of the Big Push. I said it here. I really love Big Push.
Yes.
I want to see it, and I've said that. And I've also said that the government is responsible for some of the economic decisions they made.
Thank you.
But that 24 hour is a scam and others. Okay, let me come back. The government has extradited some Ghanaians already to the United States.
Absolutely.
And they were working.
And
they were working with the FBI to collect Shatawole's car, which I don't think they should collect that car. The point here is, why didn't they make a request for the repatriation of Sedinam Tamaklu, who has actually been convicted of a crime? You have a woman there who has been convicted. In this case, you are not saying bring her back, let me prosecute her. No. The Court of Competent Decision has found her guilty. Now the Americans are saying, send us this man to prosecute the person. I think it should be a very easy, straightforward cut-off negotiation. Listen, hey, we've given you 1, 2 people. Now we also return the good faith. Show us good faith. The next person you want, put Sedinam on the flight. We also put this man on the flight. If you put Sedinam on the flight, United Airlines in Washington, D.C., and we also put this person on the flight in Kotoka here, they will land at the same time. The inability or unwillingness of this government to exercise that option smacks of a certain level of cover-up or a certain level of unwillingness to bring that woman down. And for me, it cuts to the core of all this things happening. It looks like all this things happen as shenanigans and it's upsetting because look, right now, there's another person they're asking for. Tracy or what? The guy they are looking for now. The Americans are looking for somebody now.
Abu Trika.
Is he still in Ghana?
Yeah.
The Attorney General, why can't tomorrow the Attorney General come and say, yes, we will put this Trika online if and only if you also at least, either you send us Ken or you send us Sedinam. For the sake of accountability, for the sake of everything good and sanctity, why can't we trade him for one of these people?
Okay, so the Attorney General was asked this question.
Yes.
He gave an answer.
Yes.
I want you to listen to the
Thank you, I'll listen to it.
Good. Let's take a listen to the Attorney General on this matter of, okay, if Abu Trika is going to be extradited, then he should leverage that and ask for some collaboration from the U.S. authorities to also get Ken Ofori-Atta back into the country. He referenced this same 1931 treaty and the conditions therein. Take a look.
Documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. There, we communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation to ensure completeness. On December 9th, 2025, the Office of the Special Prosecutor provided a requested additional documentation and addressed the observations that we raised. There, we communicated these observations to the office. You will recall that the Office of the Special Prosecutor investigated acts of corruption and corruption-related offenses by the former finance minister and his accomplices, and proceeded to file charges in the High Court of Justice against them. On November 19th, 2025, that is this year, my office received a formal request from the Office of the Special Prosecutor to initiate extradition proceedings for Kenneth Ofori-Atta and Ernest Darko Akore from the United States of America. Following a preliminary review our International Cooperation Unit observed that certain aspects of the request require clarification and enhancements to align with the applicable legal and procedural requirements. We communicated these observations to the Office of the Special Prosecutor via a letter dated 25th November 2025 and requested supplementary documentation.
Entire process and how this has been over the period. Dr. Zato?
I'm saying that. So whatever it is, even the laws, because they didn't know about the law in November. They knew about the law or whatever the process was known in January, in February, in March, in April, in May. And if something of such magnitude, you already know it, you can expedite it. So my question is that, yes, whether you are lost or no. But the question is whether it is there.
In fairness, Doc, the differences was with the format that the AG wanted the docket to be. The OSP presented the docket in a particular format.
Yes.
But the AG wanted it in another way. So these were the
format alone took 1 full year. That's
it was important.
I'm not saying it's not important. And Justice, okay, you've done it. Let me go ahead.
Okay, very well.
Format is important. I'm not saying it, but I'm saying that if format alone takes 1 full year, then there's I see administrative inertia and effectiveness. That's my point. But this Tamaklo case, I'm saying that again, right now it's not too late. In this particular, it's not too late. The man is here. The guy they want is here. You can bargain, because you see, sometimes it's international issue. You can draw a hard bargain. That's what I'm saying. Again, we are not. This woman cannot say, "Oh, if I go to Ghana, they won't treat me fairly well." You've already been convicted. This woman cannot say, "I'm afraid of my shadow in Ghana." No, you've been convicted. And also to add to the AG's negotiation, he can make the case that, look, you committed these crimes when the NDC was in power. Your political opponents were the NPP, so maybe you were afraid that if the NPP got you, they will multitude. NPP is out of power. NDC is back to you. The people who appointed you then are here. Some of them are actually still the appointed authority. So my point is that if the Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana goes ahead to send this young man there, would at least bring him back one of the two people we need, either Sedinam or Oken, he would have been doing this nation a great disservice. Okay. If he goes ahead and does it, I'm saying the man is still here. We are not in a hurry. You can put him in jail. You can put him wherever. Don't send this man and receive nothing and empty-handed. If you're sending him, send both of them. If you don't do that, you would have failed these countries, and we have failed this country in a very, 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 very big way.
Manasseh Azure Awoni is an investigative journalist. He's also joining us on Zoom on this particular matter as well, because he's done quite some work with regard to this SML, which is a subject of investigation as well as the prosecution against or of Kenneth Anayo Ofori-Atta. In fact, it's in that case that you have the 78 charges and others slapped on him and Esther Corey. Manasseh is joining us.
Manasseh, the US that they will not extradite a police officer because of that. So we can use this as an example. Send this person. We'll send this person.
Hold on. Manasseh, can you unmute for me? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And Mr. Lomonoso, this is what the Attorney General has given to us in terms of the update. What is of issue is whether the days after this particular request for extradition of Kenneth Ofori-Atta should be left solely to the discretion and the period that the U.S. authorities will work on, because that's what he says. He says much of it is outside of his control. So there are no timelines. We can't even tell when it's going to come. Professor Bafo-Adjumandua, based on his experience and knowledge of this extradition processes, it can take quite a while. And so it appears we may have to wait for a long time with Kenneth Ofori-Atta hiring top lawyers to fight this.
There is no top lawyer that can defend a criminal and succeed.
But you can't actually call him a criminal.
No, I'm just, I've not said he's a criminal.
You are not referencing, this statement is not in direct reference to
No. If it is reference, I'll say it. Right. But the point is that if you have stolen, you have stolen. If the country knows that Mr. ABCD has stolen and you have caught him red-handed, no amount of advocacy from a lawyer will save the situation if truth will prevail. If the government does not push, they must push the United States of America to do what is right. We cannot be saying that someone is sitting on our billions and you hide under the cover of laws in the US and say that he must remain there, while these twinkle latest Abu Trika and Co are only taking under 10 million, you come and quickly take them. No. But you see, Alfred, why we are where we are today is that our legislative arm has disappointed this country.
What do you mean?
The parliament of the last administration, the 7th and the 8th parliament, we must heap all the blames on them for not defending the integrity of this country. Ken Ofori-Atta, are you surprised with it? With what is happening? In 1999, 1998, the Obotan Development Limited scandal, that criminality, that took away $2.4 million from Snitch. Everyone who mattered in Ghana's politics knew of that. Some of us in 2017, when he was going for vetting, we petitioned Parliament that do not approve this man because SFO investigation has revealed that he has to be prosecuted for swindling the whole state institution.
You reference which SFO report?
SFO report, I'll get you the report. I mean, SFO did a comprehensive report on the Obotan Development Limited when they created the impression that they were going to put up assets. Here, this, your...
So what was the response of Parliament's Appointments Committee based on this?
They wouldn't even have courtesy to respond to you. They did not ask a single question on that matter. They approved him to be your Minister of Finance. That came, we thought that the MPP had an overwhelming majority then, so they could pass through. Then, thankfully, the Ghanaians did not do us any evil. They gave us a hung parliament. And here is where I come to the National Democratic Congress. They gave us a hung parliament in 2020. 2021, we went back and told them that do not approve Ken Ofori-Atta, for he would destroy this country. At that time, I was in the MPP. Interestingly, the man was able to defer his vetting. He went and stayed in the US and they told him that he was sick. The same thing he's doing today. And refused to attend the vetting on time. Interesting, Parliament, overwhelmingly from both sides. They approved of his nomination. So if you had an issue of Obotan having swindled the entire country, and you allow him to get away with it.
You make available that report.
I will make it available. There's everywhere, SFO everywhere. You think he would not have, he wouldn't have been emboldened to swindle the entire country in all the scandals we are discussing? You ask, just ask a simple question. Prof?
It's a matter of investigation.
Which one?
As to whether he has swindled or not.
You see?
Is it not?
The Attorney General.
That's why I'm saying that the Attorney General himself, having said this, to the extent that this is a matter in issue, you can't make such a conclusive statement.
The thing is that when the Attorney General goes to court or the OSP goes to court, they do not say alleged. They say the man has stolen. That's what I go with.
They are charging him.
They are charging
and they
for
have
stealing.
To prove beyond
so
reasonable doubt.
You see, my tax pays the Attorney General, he pays the OSP. He said he has stolen.
So the charge, which is
the charge says he has stolen. That is what I'm going with.
Well, I'm not arguing with you. I'm only telling you that there's a charge. Which has to be proven beyond reasonable doubt.
I don't have a problem,
so
but
you don't have to make conclusive.
No, the man says the charge. So what I'm saying is that if we had dealt with Obotan case constructively and seriously, he wouldn't have become a finance minister, let alone to dissipate, lead, cause. The very reason he is in the United States must be the reason he must be in Ghana. He said he's sick. He's attending Mayo Clinic. What investment did he make in infrastructure, in terms of health infrastructure, so that the ordinary Ghanaian, when he's sick, he can also receive such treatments? He has our money. He was controlling affairs. So he has the luxury of attending expensive health centers. What about the ordinary Ghanaian? Now, on the 24th of January 2025, the OSP told us that he has officially notified Ken Ofori-Atta that he was under investigation on 5 different cases. Remember this, one out of the 5. He spoke of the PDS, he spoke of the National Cathedral and so on. So this is one aspect of it. Now, on the 31st of January, the lawyers in this country, sometime in fact that you are doing your advocacy, you must also have the country at heart.
What do you mean by
what did his lawyers say? The lawyers came to tell us that he was out of the jurisdiction, he was never going to come back. And that they were ready to be answering whatever questions the OSP had. You were going to answer questions bordering on criminality. Were you the ones that were the finance ministers? To have told the entire country that you were ready to answer questions.
But that's not wrong.
What is wrong about if you are being charged on criminal matters, you will go and answer?
Okay. Are you faulting his lawyers for doing their job?
Now listen, I'm giving you chronology of events. Now when the OSP said on the 5th of February that look, we will not accept this claim, they quickly introduced a letter from Mayo Clinic, fake one as such. Fake one as such.
It was proven to be fake.
Everything about that document was fake.
Did you write to Mayo Clinic?
When you send them email, nobody answers. And I'm saying it's fake.
Because they didn't respond.
Nobody had, look, that letter they brought was never addressed to any governmental agency. So whom were they writing to? All of a sudden, that letter popped up. That letter, they came to tell us that Ken Ofori-Atta was going to come to this country on the 2nd of June. On the 2nd of June. Afenyo rather even went to court. Said in Parliament that he was going to come in May. The OSP said 2nd of June, we will expect him. That was when they started playing games with us. I've told you that if we are not going to be serious as a country, these people will swindle us. So Ken Ofori-Atta is never going to come today, it's never going to come tomorrow. What it is that he has accepted that indeed he is sitting on our money, I won't come with the money. That's what he's telling us.
Well, you see.
That's what he's telling us.
And that is the point where Manasseh earlier when we spoke, Manasseh, I'm going to bring you in, but I just wanted Dr. Zato to know this, that you see, when the Attorney General was asked the question of this extradition, what he referenced as reciprocal extradition, that you have this person, I need this person, so bring this other person. That answer, we're going to pull up the video for you. But his response was quite clear, that they have made an application both for Ken Ofori-Atta, and not just him alone, and Sedinam Tamaklo as well. Okay, so that process is in place. You want them to now say that because you need Abu Trika, bring one of the two. It is not within the domain of the Attorney General, he says, to, as it were, make that particular demand because there's a treaty that outlines exactly what has to be done.
Why not?
But they Sedinam Tamaklo and also Ken Ofori-Atta have both been the subjects of a request for extradition. That is what the Attorney General gave us in that update. Manasseh, if the Attorney General says that what happens after today is not within his control, are there other alternatives that could be looked at in getting Ken Ofori-Atta to come and answer questions and not just leave it to as long as this extradition process will take, which we are learning that it will take quite a while, especially because of Ken Ofori-Atta exercising his rights to get top lawyers to fight this?
Well, thank you very much. And I think when some of us, myself and Mr. Martin Kwebu, were concerned about certain delays, even in starting the investigation, some people wanted us to just say, well, the process has finally finished. So what is your point in all of this? If certain actions perhaps were taken earlier, some of these things would have been avoided. But having said that, it is often very difficult, even in this country. And I'm making a general example that the petty thieves are very easy to deal with. The grand thieves are difficult to deal with. If someone steals a tuber of yam, within a week, we read news that they are jailed 5 years or a number of months. But if somebody steals $5 billion belonging to the state, it takes forever, even if they're in the country, because they have the resources to be able to frustrate the system, to hire the best of lawyers and do everything they can to, sometimes it even goes beyond the legal. Some even have international connections that they pull strings to defend them in this situation. So the Attorney General is partly correct, but the part I don't agree completely with him is to suggest that, well, it is out of our hands. I know, I'm not an expert, but I know that beyond the legal issues, there are also some international relations issues, how Ghana relates with the US. There are many things that go on behind the scenes. And if anybody follows immigration issues in the US these days, there are students with valid visas who have, for one reason or the other, been refused entry while they are coming back. Some have even been permanent residents in the US. And sometimes when you read the reports, the response from the government is that, look, you don't have the right to be in the US. It is a privilege. And so we have had reports of certain people being deported who have permanent US citizenship and all of that. The point I'm trying to make is that beyond the law, there are other means through which some of these bilateral relations can be, or issues can be conducted behind the scenes. Some diplomatic pressures can be brought to bear. Some people are fighting back home here that Ghana has accepted some deportees to West Africa without following the law and all of that. Of course, a number of countries have also been put on certain travel restrictions to the US. Ghana has been taken off. So there are many trade-offs that go on behind the scenes that we do not know. But I think that if the state of Ghana is very committed, the Attorney General at this point should go beyond what has been done. It is a bit disturbing to hear, quoting the Attorney General, that the office received a formal request for extradition on the 19th of November. This is almost a year after Ken Ofori-Atta had left. And of course, those of us who pursued this case and petitioned the OSP know that, as Dr. Zato is saying, why should it take a year? And I hear my friend Justice Abdullahi talking about formalities. The main point is, which I made when these controversies emerged, was that at the time Ken was leaving, there was no investigation being done. So the investigation has now completed. It is delayed. And if we are requesting it now, it will take some time. And if I do not want to even talk like a doomsday prophet, it is possible that this Attorney General would finish his tenure without Ken coming back if all these legal dribblings are to be exhausted and all of that. But the government of the Republic of Ghana may need to just say, well, we have done a request, so let's sit down. If that happens, we may not likely get any response soon, but we have other trade-offs that we are currently engaged in with the United States, which I think all of those ones should be triggered. And by the 14th of February 2026, Ken Ofori-Atta's US visa will have expired. He will be vulnerable, and within that period, anything can happen. So the point is that the Attorney General should not just say we have done our part. The government of Ghana shouldn't say we have written. Normally, even when we write letters here in our country and you don't follow up, someone may leave it somewhere. So much has to be done to ensure that Ken comes back to answer for the pain he's put people through. If you were at the Ministry of Finance and you would wake up and see people who had served the nation diligently, gone on retirement, and could not afford medications because their bonds and investments were locked, and these were locked because the state borrowed in our name, dissipated those funds, got us into so much debt, and everybody was suffering. As we speak, from time to time, I have people who tell me even Ken's own data bank. They have investment there that they cannot get as and when they need it. And all of this mess has been supervised by someone who would see old men crying, but still have the courage to do deals such as SML. And I think we need to bring such a person back to the country to face a trial, just like others are doing. Those who are here are not dead. Nobody has put them in Nsawam without trial. So I see no reason why he should be running away.
Lawyer Martin Kpebu says the citizens' power is one of the alternatives that can be exercised in this regard. He's talking about demonstrations, peaceful protests, to submit a petition to the U.S. Embassy, for instance, is that a potent tool to deploy? And this is a question I'll ask you, Amaliba, as well. Yes, Manasseh.
Yes, it is part of the pressure. One thing I've realized is that in any society that the government takes people seriously, the people who are in charge of affairs are not just angels. The government will take you seriously when you take yourself seriously. So if we, the citizens, go to bed, if we, the citizens, sometimes even begin to attack those putting their life on the line for our collective interest, and they begin to ask you, so what is your interest? Why do you hate this person so much? And all of that. I think if our government gets to know that, look, we as a people are serious about it. We want the government of Ghana to put pressure and some diplomatic more work into this process. But they will not just get up and act if nothing is happening. Sometimes when the pressure comes, you see some of the responses from the OSP, the Attorney General, and others when there is heat on them. Mm-hmm. So my point is, we shouldn't just go to bed also as a people. Whatever mild pressure, hard pressure that we can put on our duty bearers and tell them that, look, it shouldn't be just business as usual. There have been certain lapses in the past that allowed this man to go out, but there is a way to bring this person back. Get up and act.
Right.
We should be able to put that pressure and then hope that the leaders who are acting on our behalf will respond to it and act appropriately.
Manasseh, thank you. Lawyer Godwin Ejudi Tamaklo says, good morning, Alfred, and your esteemed panelists. Tell Dr. Zato it should be like for like. Ken has charges filed against him in Ghanaian court. Abutrika has been indicted in the United States. It should be like for like. Bringing the Sedinab Tamaklo into this conversation, he says, is mischievous and diversionary. Red herring, Ken for Abutrika, like for like. That is what lawyer Eduji Tamaklo says. But in fact, on this particular issue, and Lawyer Martin Kpebu, I bring in here because that argument of like for like was a question that was put to the Attorney General. We were trying to pull up the video earlier, but we have it. And this was his response to it. Take a look.
The principle of reciprocity, whether we should expect that the U.S. authorities, having taken some Ghanaians by way of extradition to the United States of America, will also, in exchange, reciprocate by extraditing Ken Ofori-Atta to Ghana. Now, the principle of reciprocity underlines extradition proceedings. And usually, without a bilateral treaty or a multilateral treaty arrangement that obligates a state to extradite persons accused of crime that are found within its territory to another country, usually extradition cannot take place. In the case of Ghana and the United States of America, there is a 1931 extradition treaty that was signed between the United States of America and Great Britain when Ghana was a colony of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, that treaty expired as far as the United Kingdom is concerned. So it's no longer applicable between the United States, and the United Kingdom. But it has not expired. It was renewed when we became independent in 1957. And so it is still in existence between Ghana and the United States. Now, if you look at Article 3,
Attorney General, responding to this life-for-life reciprocal, proposal that has been made, that, well, if we need Ken Ofori-Atta, then we are giving Abu Trika and others, then we should make that demand as well. That's his explanation to it.
Yeah. So, it's good. It's good. The key part we should be celebrating now is the fact that citizens, you see this Abu Trika argument, that citizens saying Abu Trika should be extradited on condition that Ofori-Atta will be brought, okay? Seems to me to have come from ordinary citizens who are not lawyers. Yes. And that's something we should be celebrating. On social media, people started raising that point. It doesn't appear to me that it's legal experts and political commentators who started it. And so I'm very happy about it. So it tells you that ordinary citizens are engaged. And when you have citizens engaged, then you generally will get better outcomes in democracy, right? Yeah, because then in that case, it helps in what we call the whole of society approach or whole of government approach, where government is doing or undertaking activities and brings on board the citizenry. Because the citizenry form the nation. So where government is engaged on any activity and the citizens are not engaged, the citizens are not supporting, you won't get the best. So I like it. So let's continue to push. Let's continue to push. And remember, more than 4 weeks ago, I mentioned here earlier that we would, in due course, organize a demonstration. So the argument that we should bring Ofori-Atta down as a quid pro quo, and that's the word the Americans like, quid pro quo, that's
something for something.
Something, yes. Yes, it's something that we should keep pushing because, and when we go on the demonstration, that's what I mentioned about more than 4 weeks ago when we were discussing this topic. The demonstration, the numbers, they will snap the numbers, they will cover the demonstration to the U.S. Embassy. When we demonstrate, go there peacefully and hand over a petition to the ambassador for onward transmission to the Attorney General of the U.S. and the Secretary of State, and in fact, President Donald Trump. They will look at the numbers that go for the demonstration, etc. Then they will understand that this extradition is as much political as legal. The legal alone doesn't cut it. Look, under U.S. law, you know that when the judge finishes the case certifying that Ofori-Atta can be extradited, the Secretary of State can look at other factors and say no. Under U.S. law, let's be very clear. The judge who will decide doesn't have the final say as to whether Ofori-Atta will come here or not. It's not for the judge. The judge is basically to look at the treaty and those things and decide that, oh yes, under the treaty, these things have been met. The lawyers will argue otherwise. I mean, all I'm saying is that no matter the proceedings, at the end of the day, the final decision from the courts is not the final decision to bring Ofori-Atta down. The final decision lies with the Secretary of State. That's the equivalent of our foreign minister, right? Right? So once we begin to engage and they see that, oh, there's a lot of politics in this whole extradition process, etc., the Americans will take us more seriously.
That will not dovetail into political persecution.
Yes. So we are coming to that.
That would be a flag, a red flag.
Yes, yes, because the political persecution you've mentioned is one of the things the Secretary of State can use. Yes, he can look at it, even though the courts will also be looking at it. I remember I mentioned earlier that in one of the extradition cases I did a few years ago, well, now it's over 8 years, or about 10 years ago, Professor Tefa, the UK court didn't bring down the person because the report we wrote, we went to the prisons, looked at it, and then wrote a report. The prison conditions in Ghana were so bad, and that's one of the things. They didn't bring down the person. So this thing about political persecution is something the Secretary of State can use and not bring down Ofori-Atta. Of course, it's not a political persecution, but we're just making the point that under law, the Secretary of State, he He's a politician, so he's allowed to use humanitarian grounds, political persecution, that's the witch hunting thing, statute of limitations, and many other things. It's a discretion. So let's start it this way.
Right.
It's a discretion that the Secretary of State, their foreign minister, will exercise after the court is done. So it's not just a legal battle. It's also a political battle. So there are two battles to be fought. After the court is done, there's also a political one. And that's how come we have to arrange our ducks in a row early. We have to, like the wise maidens in the Bible, we have to go with extra oil. So we are not just going to the legal battle. We, across the table here, and the actors, the netizens, we have to start the political fight early by starting our demonstrations, etc., to tell the American government that, look, this one is very political, so they better get it right. We will not allow that Ofori-Atta doesn't come here, but we will keep extraditing. And I like Solomon Wusu's word. We keep extraditing little twinkle stars, right? You see, so they must bring the Ofori-Atta. And let's not forget this, that, you see, in the U.S., their economy is not in the best of shapes. They are struggling. They have cost of living issues, etc. And you see how recently Donald Trump had to capitulate to the Saudis because he needs investment. So the death of Jamal Khashoggi, Biden, they were raising human rights issues a lot under Biden. Donald Trump sees actually he wants the Saudis to continue to invest in the U.S. So he has to throw away human rights consideration. I mean, long story short, to attract investments, Donald Trump does a lot more than just legal, there's legal considerations. So the argument I'm making here is that because Ofori-Atta has invested heavily in the U.S., there is that key consideration. He has invested heavily.
It's heavily.
You see, so it makes it difficult. And he has also applied for permanent residence. Remember, some weeks ago, I mentioned that my information is that he has applied to be a permanent resident. That is on his way to becoming a citizen again. He was once a citizen, and then he had to give it up, etc., became finance minister. He wants to become a citizen again, so he's applied to be a permanent resident. So the matters are getting complex. So, was it Abdullah who mentioned or somebody? Manasseh also mentioned the diplomacy. So we have to begin to negotiate diplomatically how we will bring him down. It's not just the courtroom. Right. The courtroom, in this case, I think that, let's just put it this way. The diplomatic negotiations, the political, and of course, it also, the diplomacy will dovetail and can cover the whole of the politics as well. Okay. And that is where we should be looking at. That right. Ofori-Atta has investments in the U.S. And when it comes to investment, Donald Trump, as president of the U.S., would want to protect investors, like how he's done with the Saudis. He's thrown Jamal Khashoggi under the bus. It's like, oh no, it's not about human rights. He needs investment. So right. It's a complex matter. It's a very serious, complex matter. That's why we have to start by mobilizing our citizens to send them a petition that, look, we understand this thing. We understand the game. We are no longer as naive as those days, so that we'll leave this conversation to a few people on TV. Okay. In actual fact, we've shown, our citizens have shown the way. They started it on the net, that before Abu Trika goes, our government should get assurances that the U.S. government will also bring that Ofori-Atta, notwithstanding the millions of dollars Ofori-Atta has invested in the U.S.
All right. What the AG is saying is to go by. If we leave this to the process, then it's going to take quite a while. We have a long process, and there's been that advocacy for other avenues to be explored, so as to get Ofori-Atta to come answer the questions being asked on the basis of accountability, accounting to the people for the power and the resources given to him. Should it be one that the AG should take into cognizance of, at least, because of his own position that if it is left to just the extradition request, we'll have to wait for quite a while?
The Attorney General has not hidden the fact that this is going to take some time. And he has told the whole country. But what is important is that he has started the process. On other things like we should exchange people for others, I don't think that is within the remit of the Attorney General. That could be diplomatic. And maybe the Foreign Affairs could trigger those things. But on any day, truth is important. Being candid to the facts are important. And for me, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than the person who goes to church to pray every day and lies. Why am I saying this? Sedinam was convicted under the Akufo-Addo administration. When she was accused, or when she was standing trial, there was no extradition request. When she was convicted, there was no extradition request. At that time, we have an Attorney General. Today, another government has come. And this government and its Attorney General has made requests for bringing back Sedinam to serve the remaining of her term here. And what are we hearing? What kind of convoluted analysis and convoluted comparisons are this? Who bears the brunt of not bringing Sedinam? Is it the previous government and its Attorney General, or the current administration and its Attorney General? So that's why me, on any day, I'll stand on the side of a drunkard who speaks the truth than a churchgoer who comes back and lies to the people. But the issue about Ken Ofori-Atta is this. We are accusing him of a number of things. One of it is matters relating to SML, matters relating to conflict of interest, sometimes outright corruption. IOCO and SOP have provisions in their law that says that you can freeze a man's property when these matters are being investigated. Ofori-Atta is using the resources that we claim were wrongly or ill-gotten to fight us in the U.S. court. What do? Don't you cut off the oxygen? Forget about his investment in the U.S. But in Ghana, can't you cut off the oxygen? Because those resources are what he's using. How many Ghanaians, if they want to be extradited, can afford top lawyers in the U.S.? So me, I'm asking the authorities, the IOCO and the SOP, what is delaying the freezing of Ofori-Atta's properties? We all agree that he needs to come back home and account. But is it also the case that, because me, as I am in road safety now, I believe that I am serving the people of this country with all my heart. So it will be difficult for me to be thinking about preparing my exit from this country. You get my point? So is it that Ofori-Atta went into this office with a criminal mind and planned his movement? These are questions for the gods, some for the beasts. I don't get it. I don't get the way he was able.
You didn't believe in the beasts or the gods.
I don't get. You see, the way the man planned is the whole thing. It's difficult for me. So he knew that when I was taking SIC insurance matters to Enterprise Life, it was wrong, but I'll still do it. Or he knows when I was doing the haircut, it was wrong, so I'll still do it. I don't get it, but we are where we are, and sometimes I tend to agree with Martin, but he's too hard on the special prosecutor. This man shouldn't have left in the first place.
Exactly.
But that one is not.
Ofori-Atta shouldn't have left. So
no, but the reason why I don't support him wholeheartedly is that we were dealing with a government whose apparatchiks were unstoppable. But I hear him say that we could have raised an alarm.
Yes.
But how it won't stop him from going.
Oh no, it would have.
It won't stop.
All right, gentlemen,
It won't
thank you.
stop. It won't stop.
No.
Right.
So for me, I might think that
if you had put it on TV3,
how will you go to the airport and stop him?
Oh yes.
Thank you.
So I think that there's more to this matters than just meet the eye.
Right. Are you a salaried worker, an SME owner, or a trader in need of quick and reliable financial support? It's time to make your money work for you. With Blue Loans from Blue Financial Services Ghana Limited, you get fast, flexible, and affordable financing tailored to your needs. No long queues, no stress, just the support you deserve. That is Blue Financial Services. Call them on 050 160 9958 050 9958 for some more information. Now, do you suspect you didn't get the right amount of fuel? Do you have issues about the quality of fuel you bought? Or, gentlemen, please. Did you experience bad customer service at the fuel station? Don't stress. The National Petroleum Authority is here to assist you. Reach out to their call center on 0302 that's 550 380 0302 550 380, or feel free to walk into their head office located at Jowulu off the N1 highway, or any of our regional offices to make a complaint. If you experience any of these issues at the filling station, you have 48 hours to report it. NPA, where customer service meets excellence. In this holiday period, there's a lot that is being offered you by Ocean Bells Travels and Tours. They have partnerships with Emirates, Qatar Airlines, Brussels, Turkish Airlines, Ethiopia, Askai, Egypt, TAP, Portugal, South Africa Airways, Kenya Airways, Royal Air Maroc, Africa World Lines, many more. Here is the deal. There's an affordable flight ticket to Dubai between the 23rd and the 27th of December. That date is coming up soon, in 3 days. Between the 23rd and 27th of December, they are planning 4 nights of unforgettable celebrations and half-day Dubai City Tour on sharing, Marina Door Cruise with buffet dinner, live on sharing as well. And here's the offer to you. As you're watching us on Keypoint, they say if you buy a ticket from Ocean Bells Travels and Tours, you get a 10% discount on all the tickets. You can call them on 059 3972 767. 059 3972 767. Or you can also reach them on the alternative number that is 059 3972 767. And my outfit, as always, is by Cobra Clothing. Is the best version of you. They are located on the Spintex Road, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station, the ground floor of the Ghana Meat store. You can call them for this outfit and many others you see me wear on Keypoint on 0244 238 341, 0244 238 341. We'll be back shortly after this quick brief. Professor Bafwa Jimendia will close us with his comment on the issue with Boko. Stay with us. Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7. Mansa Musa, who's watching us on the Voice of London radio and Voice of London television in the heart of the city of London, says on Martin Kpebu's point, referencing historical events of how on one occasion Britain refused to send our fugitive back, it has to be noted that it was weak political and diplomatic willingness on our part, which you said made this happen. UK, when determined, would send someone to one Middle Eastern country where they still practice capital punishment. You're saying, thank you very much. How can we make it a political issue and expect Ken Ofori-Atta to be extradited? That argument is a non-starter. You say, thank you very much for your message this morning. Professor Bafo Agyeman-Duah, I'll give you the last word on this matter and then also the final word of appeal that you want to make to the people of Narerugu and Boko. Please.
Yes. Alfred, you know, the conversation we just had, I think very interesting. It's clear that this matter is very complex. And those of us who expected the OSP and the Attorney General that they should have acted promptly or proactively, I think they have a point. But clearly, it's important that we those who are in haste must pipe down a bit, knowing the complexity of this situation. Also, it's clear that from the conversation that the case is not simply a legal one. There's a huge political angle to it. And that's why the idea of opening a second track, for instance, as suggested by some, that is to say, applying diplomacy, is also a very interesting point. So in addition to the legal pursuit of the Attorney General and the USP, we might also be looking at that. So the Minister of Foreign Affairs can enter the game. And finally, I think the idea suggested by, I think, Mr. Amalimba was an important point to me, that we must look internally what we can do to begin to really demonstrate strongly to potential and actual corruption in this country that your assets can be frozen until you come and prove to the country that, in fact, you have not been corrupt, you haven't stolen the wealth of the nation. I think that can be a strong signal to us. Now, on the case, a very sad case of the Boku and then Narerugu, our good friends, the Kusasis and the Rampusis. You know, it's clear, according to what I read, that in 1984, the Kusasi Boku Naba was enslaved. And he went through the other processes, getting the approval of the Traditional Council, validated through the Upper East Regional House of Chiefs, and even the National House of Chiefs. And finally, in 1986 or so, I think he was gazetted, which means that he became a paramount chief. These are the facts that we get from it. But I think in this case, the idea of the former president and the current president to request the Asante-Hene to mediate, we have to understand what mediation is. Mediation is when two parties accept a third party because they trust him or they respect him or they believe in his non-partiality, that he can really help them to achieve some kind of decision on that. So it has been a mediation. So it wasn't the effort by the two presidents using the Asante-Hene wasn't an effort to build a constitutional or legal case in deciding. Its mediation is an effort to bring two irreconcilable parties together to compromise. And I think that's what the recent report, the mediation report, has shown us. And I think it's very important that the two sides find a way to agree on a common ground, which will mean that there might be compromises. And I think the mediation effort may have achieved that at the highest levels. But I don't think the lower level, that is the young people, were very much engaged in the process. Therefore, we see the reaction of the young people, especially in Nairobi against those who are supposed to have been paid money to compromise. So I think the next approach should be how seriously we engage the young people and please the lawyers in this matter. We have realized, even from the previous conversation, that not all conflicts are resolved legally and constitutionally. That's why we are asking for alternative approaches even to that issue. Now, when it comes to a conflict that is rooted in ethnicity and heritage, that has its own emotional burden on that. So I think we have to engage the young people to come to realize that it is in our collective interest to really bring this matter to a closure. And I will appeal that the legal minds should please look at the alternatives.
Right. Prof. Bafo Agyeman-Dia, thank you so much for this. And I do appreciate your thoughts on it. 10 seconds for you. Merry Christmas ahead of time. This is our last show before Christmas. That's Abdullah, quickly.
Thank you. So I would like to register my profound respect and admiration for Prof. Agyeman-Dia first off before I move. I didn't get the opportunity to say that. But I needed to point out
10 seconds. Merry
Christmas.
10 seconds.
To say that going forward, we should expect an arrest of Ken Ofori-Atta.
So that's thank you.
That's my 10 seconds.
Thank you. Please. Your wish.
So Merry Christmas to the people of Ghana. Thank you. This year's Christmas is much better because at least we have a new government and the air breathes differently, and we hope that next year will be better.
You understand that the new government.
That's 20 seconds.
I want to wish all my family members far and wide in Tumu and all over the place a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and especially to my big brother Victor Puso Zato. This year you are celebrating your 50 years, your Golden Jubilee. Today you are hosting the whole family in your house. Victor, God bless you. God continue to protect you, and we wish you a very, very worthy celebration today. Big brother in whom I'm very proud and I love you.
I have two people, just two people pair. One is called James Anamoni, in Bolga and Sandema, my childhood friend. Then another one, my brother, called Adavuta. He's from Somborongo in Bolga, Tanga.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas to the entire country, everyone who watched this. I wish you Merry Christmas, and especially to the young soldier, the 9-month officer who was killed in the wars in the family. Colin Safwe Japan, I wish your family a Merry Christmas. May that death mark the beginning to an end of Galamsey.
Well, once we wish everybody Merry Christmas, please let's remember Galamsey is still going.
Merry Christmas. On behalf of the rest of the team, a very Merry Christmas to you, our viewers, and enjoy the festives. Thank you so much.